Chapter 1960. Portia was stunned. She still didn't really believe him. But the phone in Qingzhao's hand did light up. You said she did something to my phone. How did she stop my phone from turning on? You won't understand such high-tech work, Qingzhao said in disdain. Portia didn't believe that Qingzhao was talking about advanced technology. Qingzhao's understanding of the high-tech appliances and equipment in the house was even lower than Portia's. How could Portia believe that Qingzhao knew more about technology than her? Boss, is there really a problem with that woman? Yes. Qingzhao nodded. Then what does she want to do? Sneak into Mingwei Villa to set off a bomb? I don't know, Qingzhao said. They're probably here to ask about my family. Qingzhao's head hurt. These were troubled times. All sorts of people had popped up. Furthermore, he was too careless. Even if he didn't notice that woman's mistake earlier, he wouldn't be able to do so. Just from the coincidence of her rear-ending Portia, he should have guessed that there was something wrong with her. The Empress Dowager herself was slow to realize it. Qingzhao was annoyed. Next time, he would definitely not be careless. As long as there was the slightest bit of doubt, he would make his move. Why did he care so much? He was not a good person. Anyway, this time, Qingzhao was sure that this person was a bad guy. Xing'an was currently soaking in a container. However, after Cui Xin returned, Xing'an opened his eyes. Although Sainton accepted Trish's help. However, this did not mean that he trusted Cui Xin. Even if Cui Xin was his sister, Xing'an was always on guard against Cui Xin. Although they were separated by the container, Xing'an could still see Cui Xin's expression. You seem to have run into something bad. Let me guess what it is. Xing'an spoke from within the container. But the strange thing was that he could actually speak in the liquid. You disguised yourself as an ordinary person and snuck into that human's house and were almost discovered, right? Xing'an knew Cui Xiyue too well. Whether it was from the perspective of human morality or from the perspective of the dragon race, she was an extremely evil dragon. Tri-Silly sat in a chair in front of Saint Anne's container, her chest heaving. Do you think my experience can make you happy? So, what did you gain from this infiltration? I discovered that the human is indeed very powerful, but he is not completely invulnerable. Him? What weakness could he possibly have? He didn't discover any weaknesses, but he made a fatal mistake. What mistake? He said that a dragon's head was placed in his courtyard, Cui Xin said. Xing'an furrowed his brows at first, then a look of surprise appeared on his face. This time, you don't need to take out your wealth. Maybe there's a way for our people to participate. Placing a dragon's head in the courtyard as a decoration was already a huge taboo for the dragon race. Xing'an continued to stare coldly at Cui Xin. Why are you helping me? If you want my treasure, then don't even think about it. I won't give you my treasure, not even a single silver coin. Cui Silly smiled as she looked at Sainton in the container. This isn't the best place to hide. You're heavily injured, yet you still want to hide here. This means that this place is very important to you. You hid your treasures here, right? Cui Xin sneered. Xing'an, who was in the container, suddenly became agitated, and panic appeared in his eyes. It seems that I guessed correctly. The treasures are here. If you dare take even a single silver coin from me, I'll kill you. Xing'an growled as he stared at Cui Xin. I don't want your treasures. I only want one thing. Cui Xin stared at Xing'an. If you don't agree, then I'll take all of your treasures. What thing? Xing'an looked at Cui Xin angrily. The caltrip ball, Cui Xin said. I don't have that thing. Xing'an denied without even thinking. Don't be in such a hurry to refuse. If you give me the caltrip ball, not only will I not touch your treasures, I'll even give you information about the treasure island. I've been to the treasure island before, so I know its location. Cui Xin's words were extremely bewitching. That place is filled with endless treasures. Don't you want any of them? Xing'an was silent for a moment, then said, I really don't know what the caltrip ball is. Maybe you really don't know what the caltrip ball is. Maybe it's hidden in your treasures. Chui Xin said. At the same time, Chui Xin took out a drawing that she had just drawn. This is the shape of the caltrop all. Xing'an narrowed his eyes. Originally, he really didn't know what the caltrop all was. However, after seeing the drawing of the caltrop all, he immediately remembered. The caltrop all was indeed in his hands, but it wasn't piled up among his treasures. The dragon clan had a habit of splitting their treasures in half. This was to avoid any mishaps from happening, so that their treasures wouldn't be taken away at once. Xing'an also had this habit. You don't have to deny it. This caltrop all was obtained 200 years ago when you slaughtered a Native American tribe. Chui Xin said. So what? Maybe I've already thrown it away. After all, I'm only interested in shiny and valuable things. You definitely still have it. Chui Xin said with certainty. The caltrop all has some kind of mysterious power. You won't be mistaken. Even if you can't tell what the caltrop all is for, you won't throw it away easily. Just like how Xing'an understood Chui Xin also understood Xing'an. Xing'an finally laughed. He finally felt that he had the right to speak. What's the caltrop all for? Xing'an was indeed as Chui Xin had thought. Although he didn't know what the caltrop all was for, he could still feel the power it contained, so he still kept it. With his vision and experience, he had experienced this many times. Something that seemed useless at first would eventually be found to have great value or use. Now that Chui Xin was so eager to obtain the caltrop all, it meant that the caltrop all was indeed very useful or valuable. Otherwise, Chui Xin wouldn't be unmoved by the treasures she had hidden in the manor. Chui Xin was also a dragon, and her greed for treasures was deeply imprinted in her blood. It was impossible for her not to be moved. Unless her desire for the caltrop all was greater than the treasures. That's my question. You just have to answer me. Do you accept this deal? Chui Xin said coldly. Before I figure out what the caltrop all is for, I won't accept this deal. Chapter 1961. Chui Xin cursed. That's a part of the artifact created by the Mayan civilization, Chui Xin said. Artifact. Xing'an couldn't help but look greedy. Think about it. Do you want to use this divine artifact's component to exchange for information about the treasure island, or do you want to say that you won't get anything? Not only will I kill you, but I'll also take away the treasures you've hidden here. As for your secret treasure, I'll definitely find it. When that time comes, you'll have nothing left, Chui Xin said. You only told me information that I don't know is true or false, and you want to exchange it for an artifact? You're too greedy. You're the one with a big appetite. It's just a fragment of a god artifact, not a god artifact. Think about it, the treasures on the island. Even if you recover your true form, you can still sleep on the treasures. How wonderful would that be? Xing'an couldn't help but lick his lips. He couldn't hide the greed in his eyes. What the dragon race pursued in their lives was nothing more than treasures. Since the prismatic all is a part of the artifact, does that mean that you also have a part? Xing'an asked. Chui Xin's expression grew colder. Xing'an didn't hide his greed at all. What? You want to take the part of the artifact from me? Chui Xin was also wary of Xing'an. Let's think about how to deal with the Dragon Slayer, Xing'an said. To deal with the Dragon Slayer, we first have to prepare a battlefield. We can use the information that the Dragon Slayer accidentally entered the dragon race to attract the dragon race, but most of the dragon race are old-fashioned. They won't show themselves directly, and they won't fight in human cities or nearby areas. So, we have to choose a battlefield for them, Chui Xin said. Humans and the dragon race had always maintained contact. To a certain extent, they were considered relatively stable allies. Neither would initiate a war against the other. In fact, even the lawless Chui Xin didn't dare to show herself in broad daylight, because the consequences of doing so would be very serious. By then, it wouldn't just be the dragon slayer hunting her. Even the dragon race would hunt her down, because she broke the agreement between humans and the dragon race. Initially, the dragon clan had not supported her misdeeds in the spirit world, nor had they interfered or objected to her actions. However, this didn't mean that she could do whatever she wanted. After all, there were many dragons that were more powerful than her in the dragon clan. Then what are your plans? Find a remote place and open up an alternate dimension as the battlefield. Then, lure the dragon slayer inside. When the time comes, he won't be able to escape, Serene said. That's a good idea, Shengen said. However, that dragon slayer is not weak. With our levels, I'm afraid we'll need at least a lot of people of the same level to kill him. I know that there are 2 radical dragon fathers in the dragon clan. These 2 dragon fathers are husband and wife. They despise humans very much and always believe that humans should be the slaves of the dragon clan. Hee. I have the same idea as you. Although Shingen was full of pride towards humans, he had been in human society for a long time. He knew that this was no longer the era of the dragon race. Although the dragon race was powerful, the humans had an absolute advantage in terms of numbers. Moreover, they also had powerful weapons that even the dragon race had to retreat from. Of course, if an all-out war really broke out between the humans and the dragon race would definitely lose, but the humans wouldn't have it any better. It was more likely that both sides would suffer, and the entire ecology of the Earth would be destroyed. This was just like the International Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. Humans and the dragon race also relied on their own strength to achieve a balance. It had to be said that this was a mockery of reality. Serene sneered. I'm not like the 2 of them. Although I'm wanted by the spirit world, I still have freedom of movement. However, the 2 of them are banned by human countries. They forbid them from entering their country's territory. Otherwise, they'll be killed. Oh? Which human country would dare to impose such a ban on 2 dragon fathers? The East, Huaxia? Serene said gloatingly. Shingen frowned. He had been to the East. However, he went as a human. But the moment he stepped into Huaxia's territory, he was already targeted. He felt that if he dared to do anything wrong, there would definitely be thousands of troops and horses tearing him apart. During that trip, Shingen came and left in a hurry. Since then, Shingen had never set foot in Huaxia again. He still felt at ease in America. No one could restrict him here. In the past 400 years, he had been accused and imprisoned by humans. Then, he calmly left the prison. Moreover, magic was barren here. Even if spiritualists discovered his identity, they couldn't do anything to him. He could easily destroy those spiritualists who tried to go against him. What about the 2 dragon father level dragons? Where are they now? They hate humans very much. It seems that they suffered a great loss in Huaxia. In the past 20 years, they'd been hiding on Dragon Island to recuperate. Will they make a move this time? Shingen asked. They will. As long as the news reaches the 2 dragon fathers, they and their children will be very happy to use this method to announce their return. Their children? How many? Their way of thinking is extreme among the dragon race. Their fertility is also extreme. In the past 2,000 years, they gave birth to a total of 12 children. They also raised their children to have extreme thinking. Dragons were a very strange race. Their fertility was very weak. But they could give birth to children with almost all races. It was normal for a dragon race couple to give birth to 1 or 2 children in their lifetime. Giving birth to more than 2 children was really a blessing from the dragon god. If they could give birth to 12 children, then they would really be blessed. Shingen was a little dumbfounded. Dragons could give birth to 12 children. How strong was their fertility to be able to do that? I heard that they have their own secret. Many dragon race have asked them for advice. They've also gained a lot from it. Shingen's eyes lit up. This was a cost-free trade. If he could get the secret, other dragon race would definitely spend a lot of money to buy it. But the dragon fathers were destined to be impossible for him to get his hands on. What was a dragon father? It was a dragon race of a higher level than them. Either they were talented and relied on their own efforts to break through to the dragon father level, or they automatically advanced to the dragon father level when they reached 2,000 years old. What are their names? Tuga and Melita. Chapter 1962. Zephyra, are you sure you don't want to rest? Zephyra saw Portia dragging her tired body back, and she didn't look too good. Portia, what's wrong? You don't look too good. I was scolded by my boss. Why? Did you do something wrong? No, I think he's just looking for trouble. Why is he looking for trouble? Portia told her what happened at noon. Tell me, how can that woman be a bad person? Zephyra thought for a moment and said, That woman is really not a good person. You were tricked. What? How is that possible? She suddenly stopped on the highway and you rear-ended her. It can be said to be a coincidence, but her phone happened to be broken, and your phone happened to be broken as well. Afterward, your boss proved that your phone was tampered with. This means that there's really something wrong with that woman, and you were tricked. Really? Portia was a little stunned. Zephyra nodded. Yes, your boss didn't frame you. Although you are innocent, you did cause trouble for your boss. Hearing Zephyra's words, Portia became even more depressed. Did that woman go to your boss's house just to make a phone call? Seems like it. Portia nodded. She didn't do anything else? Boss seemed to have noticed something wrong with her at first glance. That woman stayed at his house for a few minutes, and I could see that she was very nervous. Zephyra glanced at Portia. When you noticed that woman was nervous, you should have noticed that something was wrong. Forget it, if you noticed it, it would be more dangerous. Am I useless? You can't say that. After all, this matter was caused by your boss. It has nothing to do with you, and you are also innocent. I feel much better if you say that. Portia looked at Zephyra. Are you sure you don't want to sleep? You haven't slept for a whole night. I've experienced even longer sleepless nights. Zephyra, what do you do? Are you really like what boss said, a killer or a secret agent? Don't ask, it won't do you any good, Zephyra said calmly. What's so great about it? I've been in contact with it before. I often encounter this kind of thing when I'm with our boss. Does this often happen around your boss? How should I put this? I've been working for the boss for more than 2 months, and I've already encountered similar situations 3 or 4 times. It seems that your boss is also very tired. Reva smiled. I also find it strange. Boss's business seems to be quite proper. Why does this kind of thing always happen? What business does your boss do? Producing and selling beer, Portia said. Our boss is a major shareholder of Dashin Beer, which is very popular on the market now. Portia only found out about this recently. Gaia had told her before that Qinzhao's business was in the beverage industry. However, Portia didn't expect it to be Dashin Beer. Only when she received Citibank's financial report did she realize how rich Qinzhao was. He had such a huge amount of assets and an astonishing income. She didn't think that Qinzhao needed to be involved in any illegal businesses. Qinzhao was really rich. He could even negotiate with the banks with his current savings. He could ask the bank to give him a higher interest rate. After all, the bank would earn a lot if the money was kept in the bank. The bank could use the money to invest and obtain more benefits. Not to mention some high-risk investments, even buying a high-security fund would earn more than the bank's interest. In America, there were 2 types of customers that banks liked the most. One was the high-spending type. They had a lot of credit cards in the bank and had a lot of spending each month. At the same time, they could pay back the debt steadily. The other type was like Qinzhao, who had an astronomical amount of cash in the bank. After all, a normal person who deposited a few $1,000s in the bank would be treated like a king. Moreover, Qinzhao had hundreds of millions of dollars. Moreover, Qinzhao's spending power was also astonishing. The credit card that Citibank gave Qinzhao was also of the highest level, the legendary Black Card. It was said that the bank could satisfy all the requests of Black Card customers, even if the request was unreasonable. In reality, it wasn't that amazing. At most, it could satisfy some reasonable requests. If Qinzhao wanted to open a secondary card, he didn't even need to go to the bank. Andrews would bring the card to Chen Zhao personally. If the bank didn't give him a higher interest rate, Chen Zhao could just say something and change to a different bank. Andrews would probably lose his job. So, in Portia's eyes, Chen Zhao's wealth meant that he didn't need to do any illegal business. Unless Chen Zhao sold nuclear warheads, he wouldn't be able to earn more than he did now. Even those rich people on the Forbes list might have more assets than Chen Zhao. But in terms of earning money, Chen Zhao might not be slower than them. In fact, he might even be faster. When Portia first talked about Chen Zhao, she didn't have a good impression of him. It was mainly because Portia didn't have a good word to say about him. But after interacting with him, she realized that Chen Zhao wasn't that bad. At least, if he was a gang leader, Portia wouldn't just be scolded for making such a mistake. Maybe Portia would just disappear from the world. He wouldn't let Portia have time to complain. This meant that Chen Zhao treated Portia well. At least, it meant that Chen Zhao had a bottom line. She knew very well how easy it was for a rich and powerful person to make an ordinary person disappear from the world. Fortunately, Portia had met Chen Zhao. If it was another boss, she would have died countless times. Just then, Zephyr's phone rang again. "Portia, prepare dinner tonight." With that, Zephyr went to answer the call. Zephyr returned to the house and looked outside to make sure that Portia wasn't eavesdropping on her call. "I'm Zephyr. What's the news?" "Zephyr, we might be in big trouble. Today, there were alarms at LAX and LAX train station." "Alarms? 2 alarms?" "Yes, and it's not a departure alarm. Dragons have entered LAX twice. That means that 2 more dragons have come to LAX. Chapter 1963. A skinny old man strolled out of the airport. Beside the old man was a woman who was supporting him. "Melita, how many of our children are here?" "2 are here," the woman said. "Bunker and Ingley. They're already in North America, unlike us 2 old men who came all the way here. Human aircraft are so uncomfortable," Tugu said. Tugu said, "Locked in that narrow iron shell, I wish I could tear that iron shell apart." "You're still so hot-tempered." Melita had a faint smile on her face. "The thing is, if you do this, the risk is too great. Even the Dragon Clan won't let us go. In my opinion, we should just poison the pilot. That way, there won't be any risk. Your poison is too recognizable." "Not good," Tugu said. When the 2 dragons walked out of the airport, Tugu suddenly looked at a corner. "Huh! That seems to be a magical device set up by the Dragon Slayer to target us dragons. Are there those annoying bugs in the city too?" Tugu's face was full of disgust. "Remember what that little girl called Shui Xin said? Our goal this time is to deal with the Dragon Slayer. So, it's normal to see this kind of magical device in a place like this." Melita looked up at the dark clouds in the sky. "What an annoying domain. This must be Shui Xin's domain. I like that little girl very much. I admire her style of doing things." Melita looked at the corner of her eye again. "There's a little bug. Tugu, do you want to catch him for fun?" "No need, just let him follow us." "What's the point of a little bug?" "Let him inform his companions so that more bugs will be attracted. That way, it'll be more interesting. Mr. Tugu, Lady Melita, over here." Tugu and Melita saw Shui Xin waving from afar. "Shui Xin, you're stronger than 20 years ago. I have high hopes for you." Tugu smiled faintly. "Thank you for your compliment, Mr. Tugu. Please get in. Do I have to be stuffed into this tiny metal shell again?" "Mr. Tugu, there's no other way. This is a human city after all. But don't worry, when we arrive you can return to your true form. Have Bunker and Ingley met up with you?" "Yes, Lady Melita. Let's go and see our children. I haven't seen them for a long time." Tugu and Melita followed Shui Xian to St. Anne's Manor. On the way, Shui Xian asked as she drove, "May I ask if any of your children are coming?" "Of course, all of my children will come. After all, apart from Bunker and Ingley, The other children have been confined to Dragon Island for more than 20 years. They have been bored to death. This time, we finally let them out. How could they not follow us? However, the human aircraft is really too troublesome, so I let them follow behind. They will all come today or tomorrow. That's good. Is the Dragon Slayer you mentioned really that powerful? Are the two of us not enough to deal with it? Of course the two of you are enough, but I'm worried that the Dragon Slayer will escape if he can't beat us. That guy seems to be very good at speed, so I think we need to form a tight encirclement. If we let him escape, it will be extremely difficult to catch him next time. You're right. A human who dares to insult and provoke the dragons must die. When the car drove to the suburbs, a huge body suddenly shrouded the sky above the car. Bunker, he seems to have lost weight. The dragon called Bunker lowered his head and looked at Chui Xin, Tugu, and Melita in the car. Then, Bunker's huge claws lifted the roof of the car. Father, Mother, you're here. Melita flew up and patted Bunker's huge head. Bunker, my child. Chui Xin brought Tugu, Melita, and Bunker back to Saint En's manor. When Tugu and Melita saw Saint En soaking in the container, they were stunned at first. He is my brother, Saint En. He was injured by that dragon slayer. Melita moved closer to the container. Saint En also opened his eyes and looked at Melita outside the container. Suddenly, Melita reached out and smashed the container. Chui Xin was shocked. Lady Melita, what are you doing? Melita grabbed Saint En's neck. Saint En tried to struggle, but he couldn't break free from Melita's palm at all. But soon, Xing'an stopped struggling. Because he realized that Melita didn't want to hurt him. The injuries on his body were healing at an astonishing speed. This is... Chui Xin looked at Saint En in shock. Melita is a 5-colored dragon. She has 5 types of magic power, one of which is the power of holy light. Tugu said. Won't that consume too much? I won't even need a day to fully recover from such a small amount of consumption. Dragons didn't only have specific attributes. They had all kinds of strange attributes. Only humans had this kind of diversity. Other species rarely had this kind of diversity. Soon, Melita let go and Saint En fell back to the ground. Saint En checked his body and found that it was completely healed. Based on his previous injuries, it would take at least a few years for him to barely recover. But now, Melita had healed him in the blink of an eye. Saint En's face was full of shock. Was this the power of a dragon father? Much stronger than him and Chui Xin. Just this healing spell alone wasn't something they could compare to. Thank you, Lady Melita. Saint En bowed respectfully. Where's Ingli? Why don't I see him? Mother, I'm here. Just then, a figure appeared out of thin air. Melita and Tugu looked at Ingli. Ingli, your invisibility has improved again. We can't even detect you. That's because Father and Mother didn't detect me on purpose. Otherwise, my little magic wouldn't be able to hide from them. Mother, Father, where are our brothers and sisters? Didn't they come? Of course they came, but they'll be here later. Great, we can make a scene. Bunker shouted excitedly. Saint En's expression darkened. Was it really a good idea to call these violent people here? They wouldn't continue to make a scene after killing the dragon's slayer. If that was the case, he wouldn't be able to escape. He would also be labeled as an evil dragon. That would be troublesome. Chapter 1964. Tugu, Melita, their children, and Chui Xin. They were all lawless, evil dragons. At the same time, they were synonymous with trouble. Xing'an only wanted to accumulate wealth and peace. He did not want to cause trouble with these bastards. But now, he had nowhere to run. If he said that he wanted to back out now, these bastards would tear him apart. And that human would not let him go either. He could only pray that after they killed that human, they would leave Los Angeles obediently. As more and more of his brethren arrived, Xing'an felt even more hopeless. Because every single one of his brethren was so manic and restless. It was as if only destruction could satisfy their desires. The news from Zephyr became more and more serious. It was very serious. Since evening, there had been continuous alarms. And so far, it had been confirmed that all of them were evil dragons. This gave Zephyr and the Dragon Slayer team reason to believe that these evil dragons were definitely preparing some kind of conspiracy. Otherwise, it would not be so coincidental for so many evil dragons to appear in the same city at the same time. Zephyr, Zack has already followed them to the outskirts of a forest. Because the road is too secluded and there are no other cars along the way, he did not dare to follow them in fear of being discovered. I understand. Tell Zack that you did well, Zephyr said solemnly. After a while, Zephyr asked again. How many known evil dragons are in this city now? 7, including Wei Xin, Ilux said. In addition, there are 2 more evil dragons that are even more famous than Chui Xin. They committed crimes in Huaxia and escaped alive. Zephyr had never felt so lost and powerless before. It was already very difficult for the Dragon Slayer team to deal with one evil dragon. But now, they had to face a few evil dragons. And among them, there were even high-level dragons. This was almost an impossible mission. Unless Zephyr ignored the news of the evil dragons gathering. She waited until they scattered. But her strong sense of responsibility made it impossible for her to stay out of it. Send the news to headquarters, Zephyr said. At the same time, she added, help me prepare some equipment. Zephyr, what do you want to do? I need to figure out what they want. Maybe their purpose is to target the Dragon Slayer. I can't let that happen. I need to find out what they are trying to do, said Zephyr. Zephyr, you're crazy. Do you know what you're doing? You're committing suicide. I'll be careful. As long as I have the equipment, they won't be able to find me. I'm not going to risk my life to fight them, Zephyr said. But you are still injured, and your injuries are not light. I'm fine now. I also brought a lot of medicine with me. If necessary, they can still help. Knock. Just then, there was a knock on the bedroom door. She immediately hung up the phone. Portia? Portia pushed the door open and came in. Looking at her expression, it was obvious that she had been sleeping soundly when she suddenly woke up. Portia, what are you doing? Zephyr, you haven't slept all night. Have you been on the phone all night? Sorry, did I disturb you? No, I'm just worried about you. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. Zephyr would never have dreamed that the culprit of all this was Portia. Go to sleep, or else your boss will scold you again tomorrow. Zephyr had a good impression of Qin Zhao and Portia. To her, they were the kind of people who would slander each other but protect each other. Okay, if you're tired, go rest. You haven't slept for 2 days. It hasn't even been 2 days. All right. Go and rest. Portia went back to her room in a daze. Zephyr was so anxious that her head was spinning. To her, the pressure was too great. In the morning, Zephyr received another piece of bad news. The Dragon Slayer headquarters could not send any reinforcements, at least not in the short term. The reason was that they didn't have enough manpower. In fact, they were also worried that this might be a plot by the evil dragons against them. Moreover, with a few evil dragons gathered together, the difficulty of slaying them would increase exponentially. Unless the Dragon Slayer headquarters used all their resources, it would be impossible for them to succeed. However, the headquarters did not provide any reinforcements. They still had to ask Zephyr to find out what the evil dragons were up to. To put it bluntly, the headquarters had already abandoned Zephyr and her team. But this was understandable. At least, Zephyr felt that she would make the same decision if she were in their shoes. Moreover, she had planned to take the risk alone to find out the evil dragon's plot. Zephyr made some preparations. After packing some things, she planned to go out. Cough, cough. Zephyr, are you going out again? You haven't recovered yet. Portia walked out. She seemed to be in a bad state. Yes. Portia, you don't look well. Zephyr went up and touched Portia's forehead. You have a fever. You need to rest. Portia rubbed her forehead. You're fine even with such a heavy injury. I'm even better. That's different. Zafra was speechless at Portia's words. Portia could not be compared to her at all. Putting aside her physiological characteristics, Zafra was about to deviate from human characteristics in terms of physiological reactions. On the other hand, Portia was just an ordinary person, so there was no comparison at all. Zafra helped Portia back to her room. Portia was still mumbling to herself. I'm really fine. Zafra found some medicine for the fever and poured Portia a glass of water. Take the medicine and rest. After taking the medicine, Portia fell asleep right away. Fever medicine usually contained calming and hypnotic ingredients. That was why Portia fell asleep so quickly. Zafra picked up Portia's phone. She planned to call Chenjiao and ask for leave for Portia. But Portia had set a password. Zafra tried and could not unlock the phone. Forget it. Zafra glanced at Portia, who was already sound asleep. She did not want to disturb her. She would explain it to Chenjiao for Portia later. Chenjiao was not an unreasonable person, so he probably would not make things difficult for Portia. Zafra checked Portia's condition again. After making sure that Portia did not need to call an ambulance, she turned and left. She still had things to do. She needed to get some equipment from Elux first, and then go to the place where the evil dragons gathered. However, Zafra was not very confident about this trip. In fact, she had no confidence at all. This trip would probably be disastrous. Chapter 1965. Zafra found Elux. She also found a few of her team members. Zafra, are you sure you want to go alone? There's no difference, Zafra said calmly. It's more convenient for me to go alone. She knew very well that this operation was too risky. It was no different from suicide. One more person was just one more person dying. It was meaningless. She might as well go alone. How long will it take? It should be done before sunset, Elux said. That's good. It's safer at night. Zafra nodded. Zafra took out her phone. It was Portia's phone. She'd brought it with her. She thought that if Chenjiao called, she could tell him immediately and ask for sick leave for Portia. There's no signal here? We blocked the signal, Elux said. Zafra thought for a moment and nodded. Yes, it's safer this way. Zafra's team members busied themselves for the whole day. They finally finished the equipment and instruments before the sky turned dark. Zafra, this shadow cloak has been strengthened, Elux said. It weakens the defense, but greatly increases the concealment. To be honest, with the shadow cloak's defense, it wouldn't make a difference against a few evil dragons. Rather than that, it was better to sacrifice the defense and increase the concealment. Yes. But it can only be used for 1 hour instead of 3, so you can't use it continuously. It's best to use it at a critical moment. I understand. And this dragon-slaying weapon? Elux handed Zafra a full metal gauntlet. The head of the gauntlet was a dragon head with an open mouth. Zafra put on the metal gauntlet and felt the weight of the gauntlet. A full-powered attack from this dragon-slaying weapon is equivalent to an adult dragon's attack, but it can only be used once. And this is a magic crystal. It can be used as mana for the shadow cloak. This potion can forcibly suppress injuries. It can completely suppress injuries in a short period of time. It can also recover your mana. Each potion was placed in a simple syringe. Remember, the green is for suppressing injuries, the blue is for mana recovery, and the red is for berserk potion. I understand. In addition to these, they also prepared some small props for Zafra. These tools all had their own uses. They could all play a role at the crucial moment. There's no signal again. What's Portia doing? Chenjiao tossed his phone aside, frustrated. Portia was absent from work for no reason. And he didn't give him any explanation or ask for leave. This made Chenjiao furious. Moreover, Chenjiao had called a few times today, but there was no signal in all of them. Don't tell me he owes me money? If it's her, it's really possible. I'll see how you explain tomorrow, Chenjiao muttered to himself. Raising the child alone, Chen Zhao deeply understood Portia's pain. In the past, he didn't find it so troublesome. But ever since Portia had shared the burden, Portia had suddenly disappeared. Chen Zhao deeply understood how important Portia was to him. Chen Zhao walked out of the house. The sea breeze blew against his face. There was even a hint of coldness in his voice. Although the temperature in Los Angeles wasn't that high all year round. However, it was already November. Therefore, the temperature dropped significantly. Moreover, it had been cloudy for many days, so the temperature dropped even more. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was Zhang Tianyi. Hey, old Zhang. How've you been recently? Terrible. Why are you suddenly concerned about my health? LA's been cloudy these days, right? Does it have anything to do with that? Chen Zhao asked. That was done by Cui Xing, ranked 5th in the 10 evils. She's a dragon, an evil dragon. Do you want me to become a dragon slayer? Chen Zhao's heart jumped. Was this also a dragon's territory? If you want to go, then go. If you don't want to go, no one can force you. However, I have another piece of news to tell you. Several evil dragons have gathered in Los Angeles. A conservative estimate is that there are at least 10 or more evil dragons. 2 of them are father-level evil dragons and have been blacklisted in Huaxia. They once caused trouble in Huaxia and escaped with serious injuries. Now that so many evil dragons have gathered together, something big might happen. So many evil dragons? Chen Zhao frowned. As a local tyrant, he actually didn't know about this at all. On the other hand, Zhang Tianyi, who was thousands of miles away, was more informed than Chen Zhao. Why are you telling me this? 20 years ago, these 2 evil dragons stole the most precious treasure of Qingqing, then escaped without a trace. If you fight against them, you must be careful. Qingqing's treasure? What's that? Yellow Jade Immortal Mansion, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, I haven't seen the effect of the Yellow Jade Immortal Mansion, but I heard from the people of Qingqing Mountain that the Yellow Jade Immortal Mansion was a magic weapon refined by Qingqing Zi, an ancient cultivator. It's a top-grade protective magic weapon. It's different from the refining of modern Huaxia's spiritual world. The level of refining in ancient times is much higher than that of modern times. Besides, even I can't deal with 2 dragons at the same time. I didn't say I'm going to fight them. Are you in such a hurry to send me to the battlefield? That Yellow Jade Divine Mansion is a top-quality protective treasure. You might not be able to use it, but your family can. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. If I steal the Yellow Jade Divine Mansion, won't the people of Qingqing Mountain come and take it from me? You can change its appearance. Who would know it's in your hands? I still have you. How about I go to Dragon Tiger Mountain and kill you? If you dare to come, I'll make sure you don't return. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. You're really not going to fight? They're causing trouble in your territory. Don't you hate people invading your territory? I've been cultivating my mind recently. I won't get involved in trivial matters. If you can really cultivate your mind, I'll castrate myself on the spot. That's what you said? I'll watch you castrate yourself. Hee hee. I've seen your physiognomy. You'll never be able to cultivate your mind and mind. Your cultivation technique doesn't pay attention to cultivating your mind and mind. If you cultivate your mind and mind, you'll be crippling your martial arts. Do you know where those evil dragons are hiding? Chen Zhao asked. Look at you. I told you that you can't cultivate your mind. Cut the crap. Do you know? I really don't know. I got the news from the Dragon Slayer headquarters. Chapter 1966. Although Erex could not bear to see Zephyr take the risk alone. But he would not accompany Zephyr to her death. They were dragon slayers. What they pursued was to obtain the most benefits with the least cost. He did not think that it was necessary to accompany Zephyr to take the risk. It was more convenient for Zephyr to move alone than with 2 people. 2 people meant a greater price and a greater risk. Although this was moral, it went against reason. Zephyr, I will send you here. Eric said. Yes, this is enough. Elux took out another printed map and pointed at a circled location. There's a manor in the depths of this forest. It's right here. Normally speaking, this manor has been abandoned for decades. However, it's very likely that those evil dragons are hiding here. I understand. You should leave this place as soon as possible. Zephyr turned and walked into the darkness. Good luck. Eric's voice came from behind. After walking in the forest for a while, Zephyr felt a little uncomfortable. I should have listened to that man. It's still a little hard for me to do this kind of activity. Zephyr did not stop and continued to walk in the direction of the manor. Not long after, Zephyr found traces of dragon claws on the ground. And from the looks of the claw marks, it was left by more than one dragon. Dragon slayers had been hunting evil dragons for many years. They already had a complete set of methods to distinguish the identity, age, and strength of a dragon from its claw marks. With enough equipment, it was even possible to distinguish the attribute of a dragon from the claw marks. There were a few trees in the surroundings that were directly broken, probably by the dragon's tail. Zephyr continued to walk forward. The trees here were all fallen, as if they had experienced a superstorm. The ground was full of messy dragon claw marks. The two dragons must have fought here. But from the analysis of these claw marks, it was more like they were playing than fighting. This was not a good sign. They were too energetic and actually needed to rely on fighting to vent their energy. As she walked forward, Zephyr finally saw the brightly lit manor in front of her. The manor did not seem to be abandoned at all. Although the style was ancient, it was very gorgeous. The instrument on Jever's wrist began to sound a fierce alarm. Of course, this alarm was not a sound, but a feedback of magic waves to Zephyr. This was the feedback from the mana energy detector. The mana fluctuations were getting stronger and stronger, and the detector was also shaking violently. It was as if she was reminding Zephyr to run away from here. Zephyr's expression changed slightly. This device should be able to detect a range of about 10 kilometers. Why did the device only sound the alarm when he arrived in front of the manor? This was illogical. Moreover, the alarm from the instrument was unprecedentedly intense. Just then, Zephyr saw a woman standing at the entrance of the manor. Chui Xin. That's right, it was her. She was too familiar with Chui Xin. Zephyr and Chui Xin had been chasing after her for 3 years. Chui Xin had a mocking look on her face. She seemed to have known that Zephyr was coming. Zephyr turned around and fled into the darkness. But in the next instant, she was blocked by a giant dragon that descended from the sky. Shadow Cloak. Zephyr immediately activated her Shadow Cloak. But at this moment, the descending dragon swept Zephyr out of the shadows with its huge tail. The flaw of Shadow Cloak was too obvious. She couldn't move, and even her own senses were blinded. If it was an ambush in advance, Shadow Cloak would be very effective. But to use Shadow Cloak directly in front of the evil dragon, it was no different from burying one's head in the sand. Zephyr was directly swept away by the dragon's tail. She fell heavily to the ground and vomited a mouthful of blood. At this moment, Chui Xin walked over with a smile on her face. She looked at the embarrassed Zephyr. Miss Zephyr, you didn't expect that you would be in such a sorry state, did you? At this moment, a metal gauntlet appeared on Zephyr's hands. It was a dragon-slaying weapon. This metal gauntlet had been sealed with magic. At this moment, Zephyr finally unsealed it, put it on, and aimed at Chui Xin. Go to hell! Zephyr shouted. Boom! The dragon's mouth at the top of the metal gauntlet sprayed out a torrent that directly hit Chui Xin. Chui Xin was directly swept away by the torrent. The power of this dragon-slaying weapon was indeed extraordinary. It could reach 70% of the power of an adult dragon in one strike. If it was a sneak attack and there was a follow-up attack, it could indeed bring about unexpected results. But at this moment, Zephyr was only one person. She had no strength to follow up with a follow-up attack. Chui Xin stood up again. How powerful! I have never seen such a powerful dragon-slaying weapon. If I was alone, I'm afraid I would be dead. Unfortunately, the one alone is not me, but you. Chui Xin looked at Zephyr playfully. Zephyr took out a syringe and directly injected a green potion into her neck. Then a blue potion, and then a red potion. And Chui Xin had no intention of stopping it. The current, you can't even defeat me in my human form. Chui Xin crossed her arms in front of her chest. She was not in a hurry to kill Zephyr. She wanted to have a good time. Ha! Zephyr shouted, and the magic power on her body increased by several times. But even if her magic power increased by several times, compared to Chui Xin, it was still like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. The gap between them was too big. This kind of gap could not be made up for by a few bottles of potion. Zephyr was once again sent flying, but she quickly got up again. At this moment, a phone suddenly rang on the ground not far away. Zephyr searched her body. The phone seemed to be Portia's. She had thrown it on the ground during the battle. Chui Xin picked up the phone in front of her. The caller ID showed that it was the boss. Chui Xin subconsciously thought that this person was that man. The boss of the dragon-slaying guild might be the leader of the dragon slayers. If that was the case, it made sense. Why was that man so powerful that he could fight an adult dragon alone? Hello? Chui Xin answered the phone. Your subordinate is now in my hands. Aren't you coming to save her? My subordinate? Are you trying to use her to threaten me? You can think of it that way. If you don't come, then I will kill her. All right, I will do as you wish. Chapter 1967. Chui Xin hung up and crushed her phone. A smile appeared on her face. Got it. That guy's here. Zevra wanted to explain that this had nothing to do with that person. It had nothing to do with him, but she knew better. No matter how she explained, it was useless. These dragons wouldn't believe her explanation. Just then, Zevra saw a dozen huge figures appear in the darkness. The appearance of these figures completely covered the moonlight and starlight. The dragon might they emitted also made one's scalp go numb. Even someone like Zevra, who had faced dragon might countless times, still felt fear. Especially the two dragons. Their bodies were 3 or 4 times larger than the other dragons. One of them had dark and mottled skin. Its back was covered in bone spikes and its mouth was extremely huge. The other dragon was slightly smaller, but it was colorful. Apart from the dragon's body, it also rippled with surging magic power. These two dragons should be at the level of dragon fathers. The other dragons seemed very monotonous. Zevra could roughly distinguish the attributes of the other adult dragons. Such a lineup could almost start a world war. Zevra was already in despair. No one could win against such a lineup. Even if all the dragon slayers came out, they couldn't fight against such a terrifying lineup. Including the two dragon fathers, Chui Xin and Shengyan, there were 13 dragons in total. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside the forest. Rumble. He's here! Ingli has already contacted the dragon slayer! The invisible dragon Ingli was guarding outside. He was in charge of pestering Qin Zhao. We can start now, Tuga said. Let me, Chui Xin said. Just then, Chui Xin's magic power suddenly became restless. In an instant, a very strange wave passed through Rephra's body. Zephyr's body froze for a moment. She didn't understand what was happening. Just then, the magic around her thinned. Okay, the dragon slayer has been enveloped by the alternate dimension. Just then, a figure descended from the sky. Zevra's pupils constricted. It's Qin Zhao. He's a spiritualist? Zevra was shocked, but she also felt that it was reasonable. You're the dragon slayer who injured Shingen? I'm not a dragon slayer, but I have killed a few dragons before. Including the one that was invisible, there should be 5 of them. Her eyes widened and she stared at Qin Zhao in disbelief. This man had killed a dragon before? And there were 5 of them? How was this possible? Moreover, it had only been less than 30 seconds. Did he really kill a dragon? You killed Ingli? Melita looked at Qin Zhao, gritting her teeth. Melita, don't worry. Ingli won't be killed that easily. Even the two of us won't be able to defeat Ingli that easily. But Ingli's aura has indeed disappeared. Ingli is best at concealment. Father, mother, let me test him! Suddenly, a colossal dragon, whose entire body shone with a metallic luster, charged out. This was an iron dragon, a metal dragon. His body was practically made of metal, and his defensive power was even close to that of his father, Tugu. Qin Zhao rubbed his nose with a faint smile. Can you give me a minute? Qin Zhao looked at the dragons. What? What can you do in a minute? Run? Or prepare to die? Melita sneered at Qin Zhao. Saint and had been standing at the side, staring at Qin Zhao. He didn't like this feeling. Whether it was his enemies or his companions, they all gave him a bad feeling. Melita kept staring at Qin Zhao. Just like that, Qin Zhao faced the dragon's encirclement. Facing more than a dozen dragons, he stood there without moving. Was he scared out of his wits? It made sense. Anyone would pale in front of such a formation. Even an experienced dragon slayer like her couldn't keep calm, let alone Qin Zhao. The dragons kept their word and didn't attack Qin Zhao. They really wanted to give him a minute. Perhaps to them, this formation couldn't lose. To them, it wasn't a battle anymore. It was a game. It was a game between the predator and the prey. The prey was a dragon slayer. This made them even more excited. They wouldn't be stingy with this minute. They could let the prey enjoy one more minute of despair. It would only make them more happy. Time passed bit by bit. Qin Zhao stood there. He didn't know what he was doing. But to Zafra, every second was torturous. Melita wasn't afraid of death. To her, death was already her fate. Everyone who accepted the identity of a dragon slayer had accepted death. They saw dying in battle as glory. But waiting for death didn't feel good. This kind of waiting stretched out the moment of death. Suddenly, a familiar yet unfamiliar ripple spread across Refra's body. The other dragon clan members also sensed this fluctuation. What did you do? Just like what you did. To prevent you from escaping. Qin Zhao smiled. Haha. Ignorant human, you don't understand what you're doing. Tuga laughed. Qin Zhao used a minute to activate the alternate space spell. On the basis of the original alternate dimension, another alternate dimension was added. As long as he didn't die or remove the spell, everyone in the dozen dragons would be trapped in the alternate space. In other words, this place had changed from a one-sided prison to a ring. It was an arena that would not rest until one side was completely annihilated. No one could escape from this arena. Qin Zhao was worried that if the dragons wanted to escape, and they removed the alternate space spell, he'd be in the same situation as last time. Qin Zhao didn't like the feeling of being played again. So, he had to put both sides in the same position in this battle. Qin Zhao looked at Melita. Where are my subordinates? Portia's sick. I took her phone and they thought you were my boss. Melita didn't explain further. Portia's only sick? Yes. So she wasn't caught by them? Is that what you mean? Melita nodded. Don't worry. Okay, walk toward me. Just then, the metal dragon's body had already enveloped the sky above Melita. Do you want to save her? Do you think you can do it? You can't do anything. You'll only see your subordinates get crushed in front of you. With that, the metal dragon's huge claws swiped at Melita. Chapter 1968. Just as the metal dragon was about to land, Qin Zhao moved. He shot toward the metal dragon like a bolt of lightning. Suddenly, a huge body blocked Qin Zhao's way. The body was blue and white and was also extremely fast. He was a wind dragon. Of course, he could also be called a storm dragon. Speed was his forte. Among the dragon clan, there were almost no dragons of other attributes that could compete with his speed. However, Qin Zhao wasn't fooling around with them right now. He charged toward the storm dragon. The storm dragon froze instantly. A huge hole appeared in his chest. At the same time, the dragon ball hidden in his chest disappeared too. It wasn't Qin Zhao's first time facing a dragon ball. He knew how to kill a dragon. The moment the metal dragon was about to land its claws, Qin Zhao's fist filled with power brought out a shadow. Boom! Zephyr was prepared to die. But the next moment, she saw the metal dragon suddenly fly out. Its huge body flew hundreds of meters away. Then the storm dragon, who'd been blocking in front of Qin Zhao, collapsed. In Qin Zhao's palm was a blood-stained dragon ball the size of a basketball. Zephyr's mouth gaped open. Disbelief was written all over her face. Was this real? Was what was happening in front of him real? It wasn't just Jevra who was frightened. Even the other Dragon Clan members were frightened by this. The metal dragon wailed. "Mother, save me!" Qin Zhao's attack didn't kill him directly, but it was still heavily injured. Melita hurriedly cast a healing spell on the metal dragon. Under Melita's healing magic, the metal dragon was recovering quickly. Shengen had been hiding in a corner. His expression was terrible. Cui Xin wasn't as confident as before. It happened almost instantaneously. One dead and one heavily injured. If it were her and Shingen, they probably wouldn't be much better off than the metal dragon and the storm dragon. Qin Zhao stood before Zephyr. "Stand where you are. Don't do anything. Don't worry about anything else." Zephyr could feel the pressure from Qin Zhao. The power Qin Zhao had displayed was beyond her understanding. Was this man really human? Or could it be that he was also a dragon in human skin? Avatar, 10,000 techniques returned to 1, dark assimilation, eye of power, mighty god. After transforming into the mighty miracle god, Qin Zhao realized that the power of the world wasn't affected by the alternate dimension. He could still use it freely. He had been worried that he wouldn't be able to use it in the alternate dimension. In the end, Qin Zhao realized that his worries were unnecessary. She looked at Qin Zhao, who had turned into a giant. In her eyes, this was a very ordinary enhancement spiritualist spell. Gigantism was not a particularly brilliant spell in the field of strengthening. Could Qin Zhao really defeat so many dragons in his current state? There were also the 2 dragon father-level dragons. When Qin Zhao attacked, one died and the other was injured. This made the other dragons feel that today's matter wouldn't be so simple. "Human, your strength has won my respect," Tugu suddenly said. "I will express my apologies to you in the name of Tugu Amosi Haber. Perhaps we can sit down and talk. I don't need to be respected. It's fear." Qin Zhao attacked. "Holy Spirit's protection!" Melita immediately released a super-powerful holy light spell. All of the dragons were shrouded in a layer of holy light, and there were halos lingering around the dragons. It was as if countless angels were protecting the dragons. "Die!" Qin Zhao smashed a dragon with a punch. To Qin Zhao's surprise, his attack didn't manage to kill the dragon instantly. In his normal state, he could already kill the storm dragon in one hit. But now, he was at his peak and still couldn't kill the dragon. This holy light spell was really annoying. A dragon's breath tore through the air and hit Qin Zhao directly. But after the dragon's breath, Qin Zhao was unharmed. Qin Zhao evaluated. It seemed that the 5-colored dragon's holy light spell didn't just strengthen the dragon's defense. Even their attacks were strengthened. Their attacks also contained the power of holy light. Jevra watched the battle between the 2 sides. This was a battle that she couldn't intervene in. The intensity of the battle was far greater than any of her previous battles. Speaking of which, Zephyr had also participated in a dragon-slaying battle. She participated as the main force, planner, and commander. But that battle hadn't been easy. She'd almost lost. But compared to the battle in front of him, the previous battle was more like playing house. After a few minutes of fighting, the 2 separated temporarily and regrouped. "Father, Mother, this human is very powerful. Terrifyingly powerful." By now, the other young dragons weren't as confident and arrogant as before. They realized that Qin Zhao's every attack was filled with the intent to kill. If not for their mother's magic protection, at least half of them would be dead by now. Of course, the short battle just now was just a test. Neither side was fighting for real. Tugu's expression wasn't good. What he wanted was to kill an iconic human. He was a powerful and prestigious human being, not an evenly matched enemy. In fact, if he faced this human alone, he wouldn't have any chance of winning. The direction of this war had begun to break away from his control, his expectations. Xing'an and Cui Xin had been at the periphery the entire time. They didn't even attack. They were also shocked. Was that really a human? Facing a dozen dragons, including 2 father-level dragons, Qin Zhao wasn't at a disadvantage at all. Unexpectedly, he was not at a disadvantage at all. In fact, he even faintly held the upper hand. Melita, take out your trump card. There's no need to hold back. Tuga's tone wasn't arrogant, angry, or smug. There was only calmness. Melita took out a yellow crystal. When Qin Zhao saw the yellow crystal, he immediately thought of the yellow jade immortal abode that Zhang Tianyi had mentioned to him earlier. He didn't know what effect it had, but he was still on guard against Melita with 120% vigilance. After all, it wasn't a power he was familiar with, even if it came from his hometown. Just then, the yellow crystal suddenly shone with yellow light. Then, the yellow light gathered and formed a huge tiger. The tiger's aura wasn't weaker than Melita's and Tuga's. But Qin Zhao felt a trace of demonic aura from the tiger. Was this yellow crystal some monster's internal alchemy? Chapter 1969. The tiger moved suddenly, pouncing at Qin Zhao without any warning. Qin Zhao punched the tiger right in the face. The tiger's body suddenly collapsed. Qin Zhao thought it was just a show. But the next moment, the tiger recovered. It wasn't weakened at all. Was it the yellow crystal that was continuously providing energy to the tiger? It seemed that to deal with the tiger, he had to either deal with Melita or destroy the yellow crystal. Suddenly, Melita felt Qin Zhao's murderous intent. It's coming! It's coming! Qin Zhao turned his target to her. Qin Zhao's speed exploded again. The tiger quickly blocked in front of Qin Zhao, but Qin Zhao shattered it with one strike. The next moment, Qin Zhao appeared before Melita. Melita felt her hair stand on end. Hello? Qin Zhao grinned. Goodbye. A funny thought suddenly appeared in Melita's mind. Did this guy think he could kill her instantly? But Qin Zhao took out the black trident. Without any hesitation, Melita spat out a 5-colored dragon breath at Qin Zhao. The dragon breath of a 5-colored dragon was called Magic Flood. It was a terrifying impact filled with surging magic. One strike could even flatten a mountain. Qin Zhao also felt the surging magic power, so he chose to avoid it. It wasn't a wise choice to face the dragon breath that made even his hair stand on end. Qin Zhao fully used his advantage in speed. The next moment, he appeared above Melita's head. Seeing his wife in danger, Tuga roared, "How dare you!" But he was never good at speed. He couldn't save her in time. Qin Zhao's black trident was already stabbing toward Melita's head. The destructive magic penetrated Melita's head, cutting off all the neurons in her brain. The holy light protection couldn't stop the immortal power contained in the black trident. It couldn't stop Qin Zhao's power either. Rumble. Melita's huge body crashed to the ground. There was no sound. You're all going to die today. Die here. Qin Zhao stood on Melita's head, holding the black trident in one hand and the yellow crystal in the other. Murderous intent was written all over his face. The scene was silent. Dead? Melita, a dragon father, had died just like that. With Melita's death, the holy light magic on her child also dissipated. But the impact of Melita's death was far more than that. There was also a psychological impact. Jevra almost suffocated. A human had single-handedly killed a dragon. A dragon of the dragon father level. I'll kill you! Tu Gu saw his wife being killed in front of him, and immediately fell into madness. His body began to enlarge rapidly. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, not long after, his body had already transformed into a giant dragon that was 2,000 to 3,000 meters tall. Zephyra and all the dragons present were stunned. Qin Zhao looked at Tuga calmly. Not only had Tugu's body become bigger, even his strength had doubled. However, Chen Zhao wasn't afraid of a competition of strength. Tugu's enormous claw arrived with a loud rumble. Chen Zhao stabbed the black trident at Tugu's claw. The black trident directly penetrated Tugu's dragon claw. Ouch! Tugu felt an intense pain. Along with the pain was the destructive energy that was spreading from his claw to his forelimbs. Chen Zhao pulled forcefully and Tugu's claw was torn apart. Dragon blood splashed onto Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao flew up and stabbed Tugu's abdomen with another stab. Tugu tried his best to free himself. His enormous tail swept across Chen Zhao. As Chen Zhao flew out, he also stabbed at a dragon behind him. That dragon wasn't as powerful as Tugu and died on the spot. Tugu felt the pain coming from his abdomen almost engulfing his rationality. His originally strong self-healing ability was almost useless now. Chen Zhao bounced off the ground and shot toward Tugu again. Both Cui Xin and Xing'an were shocked. The situation was completely out of control now. Cui Xin looked around and suddenly went to Xing'an's side. "Don't make a sound! What are you doing?" Xing'an asked uneasily. Cui Xin grabbed Xing'an's body and took out a strange disc. Then, she poured magic power into the disc. Gradually, Xing'an felt a wave of magic power wrap around him and Cui Xin. "What's this?" "Don't ask anything," Cui Xin whispered. "Let's go!" Xing'an and Cui Xin instantly disappeared. Without anyone noticing, Cui Xin took Xing'an and escaped from the alternate dimension. In the next instant, the two of them appeared on a vast ocean. Where is this? How did we appear here? How did you do it?" "There are two alternate dimensions sealed there. I used this, the world compass," Cui Xin said. "It's a divine artifact. It's a part of the Diamond All. It can teleport the user to a random corner of the world. Why didn't you escape with the others? They're dead if they stay there. That human will kill them all, including Tugu. The world compass can only teleport the two of us. Are you willing to give up on yourself? Stay there and face that human?" Cui Xin said with lingering fear. "I don't want to meet that human again ever." Fortunately, she didn't tell her people or Xing'an. After all, the world compass needed some time to activate. If the other dragons or Chen Zhao had discovered that they were planning to escape, they would have died. They probably wouldn't be able to leave at all. Chen Zhao and the other dragons also discovered the escaping Xing'an and Cui Xin. But they didn't have the energy to pay attention now. All of their energy was focused on each other. Tugu's huge body was pierced by Chen Zhao. His body was huge, but he couldn't gain an advantage in this battle. Instead, he became a burden. Chen Zhao's speed was much faster than him, and his strength was also above him. Chen Zhao also held a killing weapon, the Black Trident. If he relied on Melita's magic while she was still alive, he might still have a chance to counterattack. Perhaps he still had a chance to counterattack, but Melita's death had already caused a hole in their formation. Tugu quickly realized that he couldn't do anything. He wanted to escape. After the anger from his wife's death faded, he was only left with the fear of death. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die here. But if Qin Zhao didn't open the alternate dimension, he had nowhere to run. Of course, it wasn't completely impossible. For example, he could use a powerful force to blast open the alternate dimension. But that wasn't something he could do. Chapter 1970. Tugu's huge body collapsed. Qin Zhao hadn't given him the final blow. Right now, Qin Zhao was also a bit tired. The biggest disadvantage of fighting in an alternate dimension was that there was no mana to replenish. In the alternate dimension, Qin Zhao wasn't Superman. Moreover, this alternate dimension was a temporary one. It was created temporarily. When the battle ended or Qin Zhao removed the spell, the alternate dimension would disappear. Qin Zhao also had to maintain the alternate dimension's mana consumption. If it was like the alternate dimension Qin Zhao had created in Ninghui Villa, that was a permanent alternate dimension with an entrance to the normal world, so spiritual she could freely enter and exit that alternate dimension. Chen Zhao's tired face still had a vicious smile. He didn't give Tugu any time to beg or threaten. Chen Zhao pierced the black trident into Tugu's head. Even if he only pierced the black trident into Tugu's head, it wasn't an easy task. However, Chen Zhao still had to focus. He turned to the remaining dragons. The dragons were scared out of their wits. After all, Chen Zhao's ferocity had exceeded their imagination and understanding. In this battle, they had made a solemn vow at the very beginning, but then they had suffered one blow after another, and now they were almost at the edge of despair. You'll all become part of my collection. Chen Zhao looked at the dragons. The dragons could see Chen Zhao's exhaustion. So, they decided to fight to the death. But reality proved that their thoughts were unnecessary. No matter how hungry a tiger was, it wasn't something a few sheep could defeat. They weren't warriors fighting back, but lambs struggling on the brink of death. Killing them wasn't difficult at all. Of course, it still took some effort. It was finally over. Chen Zhao sat on the ground, panting continuously. Zephyr stood there. She'd forgotten the pain on her body. She was still in a state of shock. A human had killed more than a dozen giant dragons in a single battle. This wasn't a normal battle anymore. It was an epic, a legend. After recovering some energy, Chen Zhao started to clean up the dragons' corpses. Tugu, Melita, and their 12 children. After that, Chen Zhao looked at Zephyr. Zephyr, I'm tired. I won't send you off. With that, Chen Zhao disappeared into the night sky. This battle was basically Chen Zhao's limit. Of course, this was in the alternate dimension. In a normal world, Chen Zhao's stamina would be many times higher. But he didn't gain nothing from this battle. At the very least, the bodies of these dragons and the yellow jade immortal abode were valuable spoils of war. Hey, Faxpen, good morning. Ruan Faxpen was still sleeping now. It was only 8 in the morning in Europe. As for the Europeans, 8 o'clock was still their bedtime. Ruan Faxi wanted to scold someone. However, considering that if he were to curse at someone on the phone, the consequences would be very serious. President, it's only 2 or 3 in the morning in Los Angeles. 3:21. What can I do for you? I've killed a dozen more dragons today. Ruan jumped out of bed. President, are you serious? 2 of them seem to be particularly powerful. They're more than twice the size of an ordinary dragon. How should we deal with their bodies? Is there anything special to pay attention to? Keep it first. Don't dismember it completely. Ruan Faxaban said. Wait for me to go back. I'll deal with it when I go back. President, those 2 dragons are dragon fathers. They're very rare. Ruan Faxi wasn't interested in ordinary dragons at the moment. But a dragon at the level of a dragon father was unprecedented. There had never been the remains of a dragon father level dragon wandering outside. Almost all of them were recycled by the dragons themselves. Oh, okay. By the way, what are the attributes of the 2 dragon fathers? One of them is a 5-colored dragon. I don't know about the other one, but he can increase his size by a dozen times. A 5-colored dragon. Boss, this is good stuff. Is the body of the 5-colored dragon still intact? Other than the hole I made in her head, everything else is relatively intact. That's good, that's good. Are 5-colored dragons very rare? It's not just rare. It's said that among the dragon clan, the 5-colored dragons will only choose a giant dragon with the potential of a dragon king as their partner. Then didn't I kill the future dragon king and queen? By the way, I wiped out their entire family. Does that mean I have a huge grudge against the dragon clan? This potential isn't unique, so there's no such thing as killing the future dragon king and queen. That's good. If the dragon clan comes out in full force, I'm really not confident. To be honest, just dealing with a dragon clan family was already exhausting for Chen Zhao. If there were more dragons, Chen Zhao would probably kneel too. Of course, this battle also made Chen Zhao realize his own strength. He was far from being invincible. There were still people or creatures that could threaten him in this world. If there had been another dragon father in the battle just now, Chen Zhao might have been the one kneeling. Other than the two dragon fathers, what other attributes are there? A black dragon, a demon dragon, a wind dragon. Chen Zhao counted. I can't tell the others apart. Ruan Faxben couldn't help but admire Chen Zhao. There were more than 10 dragons, including 2 dragon fathers. The spoils were too rich. Don't dismember the demon dragon either. It's a good raw material for a humorous dragon. You can leave it for Helis. Oh, I don't think I should dismember the bodies of the dragons, Chen Zhao said. Otherwise, it'll be a waste. Let's decide after you all come back. Helis won't be that fast now. It'll probably take at least a decade to successfully create a humorous dragon. Is it because of the difference in strength, or lack of materials? Both. How's Xionli these days? She's in good shape. We found a new clue, Ruan Faxben said. Actually, he didn't think they could get anything. The legendary golden apple really wasn't easy to find. But before Xionli got completely bored, he could only be Chen Zhao's babysitter. Right now, he wanted to grow a pair of wings and fly back to study Chen Zhao's spoils. But if he did that, even if he grew wings, Chen Zhao would pluck them out. Take care of Xionli. I'll wait for you at the finish line. Finish line? President. What do you mean? Don't hang up. Hey. Chapter 1971. Chen Zhao had already gotten the exact location of the golden apple tree from the 23rd Blood Mary. Even the precise coordinates were already known. However, Chen Zhao still hoped that Xionli could find it with her own power. After returning to Minghua Villa, Chen Zhao started playing with the yellow crystal, the so-called yellow jade divine residence. He sent his immortal power in and the residence started glowing yellow. However, he couldn't turn the yellow light into a tiger like Melita. Just from the name, it was Yellow Jade Divine Residence. Chen Zhao also used immortal power, so their powers should be very compatible. However, Melita was a dragon and she used magic power, not immortal power. Since she could use it, it meant that he didn't have to use immortal power to open the residence. It seemed that there was a trick to using it. However, he didn't understand it yet. Hey, old Zhang, do you know how to use that yellow jade divine residence? Don't tell me that you got it. You killed all those evil dragons? I'll ask first. Chen Zhao denied directly. In case I don't know how to use it when I get it. You really got it? Did you kill all those evil dragons? Chen Zhao pursed his lips. Do you know how to use it or not? Are Melita and Tuga dead? Zhang Tianyi was very excited, as if he hadn't heard Chen Zhao's question. Old Zhang, there's something wrong with your mood. Are you hiding something from me? No, why would I hide anything from you? Haha. Zhang Tianyi's happiness was beyond words. Chen Zhao could feel Zhang Tianyi's emotions even if he was deaf. I'm sorry to tell you, Chen Zhao said. I only injured 2 of them and they ran away. I only killed a few dragon babies. Zhang Tianyi's laughter stopped. What did you say? They ran away. How could you be so careless? Why didn't you stop them? Even if only one survived, what's the point of killing a few dragon babies? Zhang Tianyi cursed. Do you think I can stop them just because I say so? Don't you know how strong they are? They must be seriously injured now. It's good for you to chase after them. Oh right. Which direction did they escape to? Maybe we'll find some clues along the way. Let's catch up to them and kill them while they're seriously injured. Zhang Tianyi felt hopeful again. Tell me first, why are you so excited? Do you hate them for killing your father and stealing your wife? Get lost, am I that vulgar? Then tell me a reason. Zhang Tianyi licked his lips. The son of the current Dragon King is their competitor. Back then, I tricked them into entering Huaxia. Originally, I wanted to use the power of Huaxia's supernatural world to kill them both. You shameless old fox! Chen Zhao cursed. You've lowered the moral bottom line of humans, he said. I'm ashamed to know you. The Dragon King of the Dragon Clan promised me in private that if I could kill Tugu and Melita, he would give me an elemental fruit. What's that? It can allow creatures other than humans to evolve into elemental attributes. If it's a demon beast that has gained intelligence, it can develop a second attribute. In any case, it's for beasts to eat. You're a living person. What do you want that for? Could it be that you're a mixed blood, a half-human, half-demon like in the movies? Get lost. If you want to call me a bastard, just do it. Do you think I can't hear you beating around the bush? Okay, I'm just curious. Our Longhu Mountain has a spirit beast that guards the mountain. It's only half a step away from the Shanqing state and has been guarding the mountain gate for 500 years. Since it has done a great job guarding the mountain gate, I thought of giving it an elemental fruit because we don't have anything to reward it with. So it's useful even for beasts? That's what the Dragon King said. Help me get 3. You can take 1 and leave. I'll chase after them until I die. You think it's dragon fruit? You can buy a dozen at the supermarket for $100. I'll try. There's no harm in it. Didn't you just call me despicable and shameless? People always say one thing but mean another. You even said I lowered the moral bottom line of humans. Let's not talk about the first. You're also a bastard who forgets morality for benefits. Cut the crap. Are you doing it or not? I say, did Tugu and Melita really escape? If he escapes, he'll die. In any case, it's up to you and me to say it. If the Dragon King wants his son to inherit the throne, he'll have to take the bait. The Dragon King isn't easy to deal with. I'm taking a big risk. Risk your fucking mouth. I'm risking my life here. How dare you say it's risky? If you don't want it, I'll find someone else. Don't contact me again, you shameless old man. We're done. You fucking, do you still want the method to activate the Yellow Jade Divine Mansion? I've scolded too much. Let's get down to business. Give me the method to use the Yellow Jade Divine Mansion. I don't have it now. Fuck, are you messing with me? I said I don't have it now, but that doesn't mean I can't get it. How long? I'll go to Qingqing Mountain and find an excuse to walk around their library. Then I'll get it. Why should I let you take a look around his library? Are you shameless? I am. You don't like it? Speaking of which, give me Tuga and Melita's heads. Otherwise, people won't believe me without proof. Don't even think about it. Chen Zhao said. If you want their heads, give me something of equal value. Zhang Tianyi said he wanted Tugu and Melita's heads as proof. Chen Zhao wouldn't fall for it easily. There were so many things that could be used as proof. Why did he need heads? Then I'll give you 1,000-year-old red spirit whitethroat. What do you think? Qin Zhao didn't know what red spirit whitethroat was, but it sounded powerful. But Chen Zhao refused. No, I plan on turning them into puppets. What kind of puppet are you making? You don't practice puppet techniques at all. I don't, but my subordinates do. The value of 2 complete dragon bodies can't be compared to regular items. Then I'll use red spirit whitethroat to trade for a dragon horn. Melita's dragon horn, just 1 is enough. Seriously, don't you feel any guilt towards Tugu and Melita? Guilt my ass. Those 2 are the most anti-human in the dragon race. It's not too much to do anything to them. If Tugu really becomes the Dragon King, it'll really be a world war. Who's going to die if not them? I lose in terms of shamelessness. Chapter 1972. To Zephyra, the impact of tonight was too great. It was an indescribable war. A war between humans and dragons. Zephyra had never thought that humans could be so powerful. They could even crush the dragons. The dragons were slaughtered one after another. It was completely different from the teamwork of the dragon slayers. They won completely by fighting the dragons head-on. That was what she pursued, the ultimate power. When the battle ended, Zephyra was still in a dream. Even now, she still couldn't completely believe that it was real. In the past, Zephyra even thought that she was at the peak of humans in terms of fighting skills. or even spiritualists. Apart from the fact that magic power needed to be accumulated over a long period of time, she should be impeccable. But Qin Zhao's appearance and the war between humans and dragons had completely overturned her understanding of humans. Zephyra. Seeing Zephyra come out, Alux immediately ran over. Great, you're okay. I'm already dead, Zephyra said calmly. What? Zephyra, what do you mean? There was a rule among the dragon slayers. When someone said that they were already dead, it meant that they were going to give up their identity as a dragon slayer. They were tired of this identity and fighting. Then they could quit. Of course, there was a big premise before that. He'd killed an evil dragon before. Since he'd killed an evil dragon, it meant that he'd paid back what the Dragon Slayer organization had given him. So he had every right to quit. Alux, you'll be the leader of the team from now on, Zephyr said. Why are you quitting? Alux's face was filled with anger. Zephyr stopped and turned to look at Alux. Are you going to attack me? In the original Dragon Slayer organization, if a Dragon Slayer wanted to quit, the organization would hunt him down and kill him. At that time, the organization had too much say and didn't give the subordinate Dragon Slayers any right to speak. To them, the organization nurtured them, raised them, and gave them knowledge and power that normal people couldn't reach. Everything a Dragon Slayer had was given by the organization. So quitting meant betrayal. But as time passed, more and more Dragon Slayers rejected this idea. This was especially true for those old comrades who had fought alongside them for decades. If they wanted to quit, how could their comrades in the same squad have the heart to hunt them down? After numerous struggles, the Dragon Slayer organization was finally forced to make changes. Zevra had every right to quit the organization. And no one could do anything to her. Especially the Dragon Slayer within the organization. Anyone who laid a hand on Zafra would be going against all the Dragon Slayers. Alux was furious, but he had no intention of attacking. Zephyra, are you agitated? Alux looked at Zephyra. Oh yes, is it because the headquarters did not send any reinforcements? I know it's cold-blooded for the headquarters to do this, but… No, I'm not blaming the headquarters or the higher-ups. They didn't do anything wrong. I just realized that my horizons are too narrow. There are more powerful people in this world, and today, I witnessed a legendary battle. Zivla said calmly. What are you talking about? Could it be the 23rd generation Blood Mary of the Scarlet Church? Or Celestial Master Zhang from Mount Longhu? Did they intervene in the dragon gathering? None of them. I dare say that the person is more powerful than the two of them. That person killed all the dragons, a total of 14, including the 2 dragon fathers. That's impossible. Even the 23rd generation Blood Mary or Celestial Master John would not be able to do that. That's why I said that our vision is too narrow. Zephyr said, I should go. Goodbye. Keep the weapons and equipment as a souvenir for me. When Zephyr returned home, she saw Portia lying on the sofa. The television in the living room was still on. Portia heard the sound of Zephyr entering the door and sat up. She looked at Zephyr, who was covered in dirt. Zephyr, you're like this again. Do you want to call a doctor? Or the police? No need. Then I'll call the boss tomorrow to take a look. I'll go with you to see your boss tomorrow. Why are you going to see my boss? I met some bad guys on the way. Your boss happened to pass by and helped me beat them away. I see. Portia nodded. Where's my phone? Zephyr took out a pile of broken pieces. I accidentally broke it. Portia was speechless. It doesn't look like it's broken. I'll pay you another one tomorrow. The SIM card is not broken. It can still be used. Zephyr's face was calm. This made Portia, who had been anxious the whole night, feel her anger disappear. Go wash up. I'll prepare something for you to eat. No need. I'll wash up and then go to bed. Sleep? You said you want to sleep? What's wrong? Is there a problem? Portia kept staring at Zephyr. Could this guy be an imposter? However, Zephyr did not care about Portia's thoughts. She turned around and went into the bathroom. Help me get my pajamas. The next day, when Portia woke up, she found that Zephyra had also woken up. Zephyra, you only slept for a few hours last night. Is it really enough? It's enough. How is your body? Zephyra went forward and reached out to touch Portia's forehead. Yes, the fever has gone down. Portia felt like she was being taken care of like a child in front of Zephyra. Do you really want to go with me to see my boss? Yes, I need to thank him personally. All right then. Our boss doesn't seem like a good person. It's rare for him to do something good. Zephyra was already used to Portia mocking her boss behind his back. After a good night's sleep, Zephyra looked even more energetic. Although she was injured again last night, after a good night's sleep, Zephyra's body and mind had recovered a lot. After the two women cleaned up and went out, Zephyra said, "Drive my car." Portia was naturally happy to drive Zephyra's car. After all, Zephyra's car was a sports car, and it saved her money on gas. In the car, Portia asked curiously, "Zephyra, did boss get rid of those bad guys?" Zephyra looked at Portia. "What do you think?" Portia thought for a moment and replied, "Boss looks like he's always smiling, but when he fights, he doesn't let anyone stand. So, I really doubt that those bad guys are still alive. Some things are better known. Don't say or ask," Zephyra said indifferently. "After all, this kind of thing is very troublesome. Don't cause trouble for your boss, and don't cause trouble for yourself." Chapter 1973. We're here. The manor on the cliff is the boss's home. Is your boss that rich? Very. You can't even imagine how rich he is. Let's hurry. We can still make it for breakfast, Portia said. Is that why you won't let me eat breakfast? Damn capitalists. You have no idea how extravagant his dining table is. After Portia parked the car, she brought Refra into the manor. Chen Zhao's family was indeed eating breakfast. "Boss, Miss Feilai, hello?" Feilai saw an unfamiliar woman come in with Portia. "Boss, Miss Refra is here to thank you." "Sir, other than thanking you for helping me last night, I'm also here to apply for a job." "Apply?" "Yes, I plan on applying for the same position as Portia." Portia stared at Refra in shock. Was she here to steal her job? Qin Zhao tilted his head and looked at Refra. "Give me a reason to hire you. I can handle things that you and Portia can't handle," Refra said. "What about the salary?" "I'll ask for whatever Portia's salary is." "Okay," Chen Zhao agreed. "That simple? Don't you need to think about it? Or a test?" "No," Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. "You're right. Things that Portia and I can't handle can be handled by you. Boss, I feel like you're planning on having Refra do something like murder or arson." "Yeah." Chen Zhao shrugged. To be honest, this was one of the reasons Chen Zhao kept Refra. Refra was indeed a good helper. Of course, the main reason was that there were too many children at home. He really needed someone to share the burden with Portia. "Welcome. Are you Refra?" "I'm Feilai." "Hello, Miss Feilai. I won't keep you company. I'll have Chen and the kids show you around. Bye." Feilai hurried to work, while Chen Zhao started his morning exercise. Refra was very curious about Chen Zhao's training. However, she realized that Chen Zhao's training was very ordinary. Of course, this ordinary referred to the combat power that Chen Zhao had displayed in the battle against the dragons yesterday. If it was an ordinary person, it would be almost impossible to accomplish. Even she couldn't exercise as much as Chen Zhao. Zephyr stood in the front yard and watched Chen Zhao swim in the sea. Soon, he disappeared from her sight. But very soon, Revla could no longer enjoy the view of the sea so leisurely. Because the children in the house soon began to make a scene. They had been holding it in for a few days. A few days ago, the weather was terrible, and the sea was stormy. So, they were locked up at home every day. The furthest they could go was the front yard. Little Larissa could already trot, though not very steadily. Little Jerlin had already transformed into a little monkey. She had basically climbed everything in the house that could be climbed. At this moment, Jerlin had climbed to the top of the dragon's head in the courtyard. Zephyr was speechless, but she did not find it strange. This dragon head was clearly one of his spoils of war. Portia was not going to let Jevra off so easily. Even though it was Zaphra's first day on the job and she was injured. But Portia still wanted Zaphra to feel the horror of these children and the pain she had suffered in the past. Although Zaphra was young, she was no worse than Portia when it came to housework. Just then, there was a call from the housekeeping system. Zaphra was about to pick it up when she realized that Qin Zhao had returned. "Hey, West." Qin Zhao was drying his hair with a towel. "How's the past 2 days?" "It's not going well," West said. "We're in trouble," West said. "The situation here is more serious than we imagined. This is no longer a battle, but a war." Zaphra stood not far away, listening to Qin Zhao and West's conversation. Qin Zhao did not turn on the speaker, but Zaphra could still hear West's voice. After all, Zaphra was a former dragon slayer. Her senses and reactions were far superior to normal people. With her hearing alone, even in a noisy environment, she could hear people's conversations from a few meters away, not to mention indoors. "Do you need me to help?" "President, you know that I can't accept it." This was West's insistence. If Qin Zhao came, all their previous efforts would be for nothing. Qin Zhao was too powerful. He heard from Ron Fazabin's call today. Qin Zhao had killed another dozen dragons last night. If Qin Zhao participated in this battle between the natural and the unnatural, he would not be able to survive. Then the situation would be reversed in an instant. There was no suspense at all. West didn't bring the members of the association to carry out the Scarlet mission for the reward. It was for the training of the association members. He felt that this kind of serious situation and pressure was what the members of the association should be facing. "Guild leader, I know what you want to say." West talked to Qin Zhao once a day. Although it was to report on the progress of the mission, it was more like to ensure his safety. Qin Zhao's calls always ended with one sentence: "If there's any danger, call him immediately." "All right, I won't repeat it. Be careful." After hanging up, Qin Zhao looked at Thera. "You and Portia stay at home and help me take care of the kids. I'll be out for 2 hours." "Yes, sir, boss." Revla had gradually adapted to this job. It had to be said that her adaptability was very strong. This was also an ability cultivated by his previous identity. Qin Zhao drove to the headquarters. Right now, there were 4 people in the headquarters: Aduz, Nelly Winlancy, Jiggs, and Maev. A few days ago, Qin Zhao had heard that Maev had awakened magic and had a special bloodline. It was normal for people like Maev to awaken magic or a special bloodline after being strongly stimulated. She should be a first or second night awakener. However, she'd been pretending to be dead at the time. Everyone thought that she was in a coma or in self-isolation, but she'd actually woken up. This was why no one had noticed her night of awakening. Because she'd been in the association's headquarters, she'd been killed by the members of the association and the evil spirit group during the night of awakening. Everyone had even forgotten that it was the night of awakening. Sometimes, when one's power reached a certain level, this kind of attack couldn't even be considered an attack anymore. The only one who could truly pressure the members of the association was probably Third Knight. There were already a few people in the association who could face the Third Knight alone. Chapter 1974. "Hey, Adonis, Ziggs." As soon as Qin Zhao arrived, he saw Aduz and Jiggs fishing by the lake. "Giggs, you really don't look like you should be sitting by the lake fishing." Giggs was only in his early 30s. In Qin Zhao's impression, fishing was something people around Aduz's age would do. Giggs had told him that he had a company that did the import and export of agricultural products. It was not a small scale, and the company's annual profit was about $50 million US. This was already the scale of a large company. He seemed to be a little disheartened now. He didn't care about the company anymore and just stayed at the association's headquarters all day. Qin Zhao didn't mind having another pair of chopsticks in the headquarters. But he still felt that Giggs should pull himself together. President, are you saying that I'm old? Aduz looked at Qin Zhao. Fine, I misspoke. Qin Zhao shrugged. Where are Miss Neri and Miss Maev? Ever since Maev awakened, he's been practicing magic all day with Miss Neri. Jig's face was full of resentment. Mr. Chen, can I awaken too? I can't help you with that. My wife is also a normal person, Qin Zhao said helplessly. But I can make your body better. This is for you. Qin Zhao tossed a strengthening potion to Jiggs. We have a few members who haven't awakened their magic power. They're no weaker than spiritualists. Actually, Qin Zhao could understand Giggs' pain. He blamed himself for being weak and powerless. And now, even his wife, who had been hurt in the past, was becoming stronger. She didn't even need his protection anymore. On the contrary, he was the one who needed protection the most. That was why he had become so decadent. No matter how much money he could make, it couldn't make up for this sense of loss. Aside from me, Aduz said. Mr. Chen, can you train me? There are people in the association who are more professional than me, such as Gaia and Klaus. They are better than me in this aspect, and I'm not suitable to train you. Just then, Nellie Winlancy and Maev walked over. Mr. Chen. The two greeted. Mr. Chen, I want you to take a look at my magic. I don't know much about other systems of magic. I just want to see how effective magic is in actual combat. To be honest, Qin Zhao was more willing to let her husband, Jiggs, take care of this, instead of asking an outsider like him to come. Mr. Chen, Jiggs said. Maev doesn't have anyone to teach him. Please help him. All right then. We better back off, Nellie Winlancy said. Maev's magic is very powerful. Is this enough? Aduz asked. Not enough, Nellie Winlancy said. Maev's spell has a large range. By this time, they had already retreated 50 meters away. Nellie Winlancy didn't stop until she was 100 meters away. This should be a safe distance, Nellie said. Qin Zhao faced Maev. Maev, you can start now. I can attack however I want. Since it's a test of magic, you can start with the weaker ones. Yes, I understand. Maev nodded. After Maev reminded her, she started to attack. Her attacks did not have complex magic incantations or time to prepare. Instead, they were instant. She only needed to open her mouth to attack. Ah! Maev screamed. Qin Zhao was shocked at first, thinking that something had happened to Maev. But very soon, he realized that Maev's screams were magic attacks. There was no trace of the sound. It was just an invisible sound wave. Qin Zhao felt something hit his body. Even his ears felt pressurized. The sound wave attack was not strong, but it was not disintegrated by Qin Zhao's non-elemental body. The effect was minuscule, but it was indeed effective on Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao immediately understood. The sound wave attack looked like a magic attack, but it was actually a physical attack. This was because sound had to be transmitted through a medium. It was a physical transmission method. Qin Zhao's non-elemental body was only effective against magic attacks. Also, Qin Zhao remembered that apart from physical attacks, sound was also the strongest attack on eardrums. Mr. Qin, how's my magic? Not bad, but not enough. You can try to increase its power. Is it group or individual? You seem to be good at studying it alone, Qin Zhao said in surprise. There are actually group and individual attacks. Let's try individual attacks first. Maev took 2 more steps back and opened her mouth again. But this time, she did not make a loud sound. Instead, it was very soft. But to Qin Zhao, the sound was very ear-piercing. Even Qin Zhao could not help but grit his teeth and cover his ears with his hands. However, the sound was too penetrating. Qin Zhao's hands were actually useless. Just then, Qin Zhao thought of an idea. He could directly control the spiritual qi in the world and expel all the air in his ears, turning his ears into a vacuum. As expected, Without air as a medium, the sound lost its effect. After Maiev stopped attacking, Qin Zhao's ears were finally filled with air again. Qin Zhao gave her a thumbs up. Amazing. Your magic is very strong. Really? Not many people can make me uncomfortable, Qin Zhao said. This is a high-frequency sound, right? Yes. Then let me see group attacks. Maiev opened his mouth again, and this time, it was a loud and clear scream. Ah! With Maiev as the center, the sound wave instantly exploded and spread in all directions. Qin Zhao gasped. So powerful. The impact was not very powerful, but the range was very large. Maiev could at least kill people within a 50-meter radius. Of course, the power of this attack range was nothing to write home about. Against a normal person, she could kill them instantly within this attack range. But it was not enough against a spiritualist. Maiev, your attack range is large enough, but it's not powerful enough. Do you have any suggestions for my magic? You've already reached a very high standard for individual attacks. If a spiritualist faces you for the first time, it'll be difficult for them to defend against your full power attack. As for group attacks, you need to modify them further. The range is important, but the power is barely satisfactory. If you want to improve, you need to modify group attacks first. Reduce the range appropriately and ensure the power of the attack. Chapter 1975. At first, Portia didn't want Zephyr to become Qin Zhao's personal assistant. But after Qin Zhao left, she suddenly realized that it was pretty good. Zephyr worked really hard. She wouldn't complain at all. She could just lie down and rest. Zephyr was more professional than her. In the Bright Moon Mountain manner, he could do anything. Miss Portia, you better get up and work, the butler system reminded her. Your boss, my master, is on his way back. Portia jumped up like a startled bird. She had a nervous reaction to Qin Zhao now. She would react when she heard his name. But Portia quickly realized that Qin Zhao was still on his way. Why did she react so much? Portia slumped back onto the sofa. Comfortable? Comfortable. Portia jumped up from the sofa. Qin Zhao put his hands in his pockets and smiled at Portia. Looks like you always work like this when I'm not here. Really? No, it's not like that. Zephyr finished everything today, so I took a break. Really? Why is Zephyr still working? Is this finished? Boss, didn't the butler say you were still on your way? Liar, he's a liar. Miss Portia, when I said master was on his way, I meant he was on his way in. Maybe I should change my expression. There's no need to change it. I think this expression suits my interests very well. Boss. Zephyr came over. Boss, I'll go prepare lunch now. You don't have to be in charge of lunch. Zephyr, boss has a magical chef who never shows his face. As long as we don't enter the kitchen, lunch and dinner will be prepared automatically and then disappear. Portia had learned her lesson and knew that she couldn't find Qin Zhao. Once, she sensed that someone was cooking in the kitchen, so she ran into the kitchen. But she didn't see anyone. There was indeed something cooking in the pot. Then Qin Zhao forced her into the kitchen, and she took over his work. Since then, Portia had completely lost interest in it. She didn't disturb the mysterious chef anymore. Zephyr looked at Qin Zhao curiously. Portia, have you heard the story of the conch girl? Never heard of it. A long time ago, a young man picked up a field snail and kept it in his basin. The field snail became the field snail lady. Every time the young man went out to farm, the field snail lady would help him with the housework, cooking and washing. Portia rolled her eyes. Boss, are you trying to tell me that you have a conch girl in your house? You can understand it that way. As if I'd believe you. Although Zephyr didn't believe in conch girls either. However, she knew that it was definitely a supernatural force. After all, Qin Zhao was a powerful spiritualist. So it wouldn't be strange for some kind of supernatural power to appear in his house. Just as Portia had said, Qin Zhao had them go to the kitchen to bring out the dishes at midnight. Revra found that there were holes less than 60 centimeters in the walls of the house, including the kitchen. These holes should be for some very small creatures to enter and exit. They should be some short, psychic supernatural creatures. Portia had been working here for more than 2 months and hadn't found a single clue. In less than half a day, Revra had already figured out what was going on. Of course, this also had to do with the unequal information they had. After lunch, Portia and Revra sent the dishes to the kitchen and could finally rest. Qinzhao forced all the kids to take a nap. This was Qinzhao's strict requirement and couldn't be disobeyed. Some kids tried to resist. Then, Qinzhao would give them a Banshee's Charm combo and let them sleep until the end of time. As time went by, no kid refused to take a nap anymore. Revra and Portia chatted in the yard, enjoying the sunlight while enjoying the sea breeze. Qinzhao took some drinks, beer, and snacks and sat beside them. Revra, what happened to your original job? I quit. Won't your company cause trouble for you? I completed a certain amount of work, Revra said calmly. No one will. Boss, Revra, are you guys trying to imply something? Revra used to be an assassin in an assassin organization. She got tired of her life and decided to give up on it. She wants to live like a normal person. Revra also came into contact with the secrets of the assassin organization, so she's worried that the organization will send assassins to kill her. Is that right? Yes. Qinzhao nodded. Huh? Am I right? Portia jumped up, but when she saw Qinzhao and Revra's mocking smiles, she realized that she'd been tricked again. Just then, Qinzhao's phone rang again. Qinzhao returned to his room to answer. Zhang, how did it go? The Dragon King agreed, but he asked for Tugu's heart as evidence. Don't tell me you want it yourself, you old fox. We have to have the most basic trust between us. Do you know that it hurts me to hear you say that? Stop bullshitting. Did you get the manual for the Yellow Jade Divine Residence? No. Do you think Qingqing Mountain's library is a library? Even if it's a library, you need a library card. You said it's easy. Qinzhao and Zhang Tianyi called. Every time, it was just bullshitting and trash talking. Both sides were still enjoying it. By the way, Qinzhao, why don't we work together to take care of those heaven-piercing problems? I'll contact them and you'll do the work. We'll split the benefits. You'll get as far away from me as you can get. Don't be unhappy. My connections are all worth tens of thousands of gold coins. I can't be bothered with you. Call me after you know how to use the Yellow Jade Divine Residence. Don't call me randomly. International calls are really expensive. By the way, Qinzhao, you really don't want to come back? Go back for what? After all, China is the most supernatural region. There are more masters. If you come back, you'll be able to meet more spiritualists. The atmosphere here will be different. I like the feeling of a monkey being king when there's no tiger in the mountain. I can do whatever I want in America. Why would I go to a place full of competition? Qinzhao's words revealed his lack of ambition. Then it's good to come back and participate in some small activities. After all, whether it's the East or the West, constitutionalism emphasizes communication. Everyone takes what they need and complements each other's weaknesses. I realize that every time we talk, you'll ask me to come back. Are you thinking of some shady business again? Chapter 1976. You're talking about me as if I'm some big bad guy. You've done such a thing before. You tricked 2 dragons into coming to our country and almost killed them. You'll never be able to clear your name from this dark history. Yes, I've done such a thing before. But look at who they are. We're not that close. Don't call us brothers. I don't know you that well, and I really don't have any confidence in your character. You've hurt my heart. I thought we were friends despite the difference in age. Stop bullshitting. That Dragon King wants Tugu's heart? He doesn't want Melida's heart? It's Tugu who's competing with his son for the throne, not his wife. How can we give it to him? Don't worry. He'll think it's too easy if we're in such a hurry. What's there to be afraid of? If he dares to go back on his word, we'll just expose it and say that he sent people to kill Tugu. As long as he still has some dignity, he'll have to consider the consequences. You're no less shameless than me. Jiang Tianyi sighed. By the way, how strong is the Dragon King? Very powerful. I don't know the specifics. After all, he's lived for almost 3,000 years. How long can this old monster live? Not long. He'll die within 100 years. Otherwise, he wouldn't be looking for an heir, Jiang Tianyi said. And at his age, he basically doesn't dare to fight with others. Every time he fights, his lifespan will be shortened by a few years. Why is that? Will fighting reduce his lifespan? You were full of vigor at that age. Even if you fought with your life on the line every day, you could still recover quickly. However, people who have reached the limit of their lifespan have to use their own strength to sustain their lives, just like the 23rd generation. Normally, she should have died 5 years ago because she relied on her own strength to break through the limit of her lifespan. It's the same for the Dragon King. Old Jiang, you won't tell others that I have the stone, will you? Do you think I'm a gossiper? Don't forget, when you learned about the origin stone from me, you immediately told the 23rd generation about it. I'm old friends with the 23rd generation. I have nothing to do with the Dragon King. For the dragon race, they never had to worry about humans. They had always been the dominant party in their dealings with the humans. Humans only knew how to back down, and back down. Every single one of them is a nuclear bomb. Perhaps the humans had more nukes than their population. However, if humans were to use nuclear weapons, they would basically be harming the enemy while harming themselves. All the dragons had to do was hide in a human city. It was unknown whether or not the humans' nuclear bombs could kill the dragons, but the humans themselves would definitely be the first to suffer. Therefore, unless it was an all-out war, humans would definitely be at a disadvantage. At least, that was what Trish and Saint and thought in the past. But in that battle, they had personally witnessed that terrifying face. He laughed and killed all the dragons. Now they were back in Los Angeles. After a few days, the two of them returned. Xing'an, those treasures will not disappear even if they are buried underground for a few years. There is no need to go back now. Cui Xin was very dissatisfied. In her opinion, it was too dangerous if that human found out. They didn't even have the chance to struggle. Deep in their hearts, they had already been branded with a deep fear by that human. If it wasn't necessary, they definitely wouldn't return here. But Xing'an's greed for the treasures won over his desires. Cui Xin also didn't want to see Xing'an die here. At least, she had the world compass. If they encountered that man, they would only need to delay him for 3 minutes, and they would be able to escape. The world compass was an extremely powerful divine artifact. Even if it couldn't be used any time and anywhere, one couldn't deny its power. Moreover, it was just a part. It wasn't a real divine artifact. Cui Xin's goal was to complete the divine artifact. To achieve the final, perfect form. And before getting the diamond all from Xing'an, he couldn't die. Therefore, she had to accompany Xing'an back to Los Angeles. Of course, they had made preparations before coming. They had thought of a way to fool the Dragon Slayer's monitoring device. They had even changed their appearance. Cui Xin and Xing'an carefully returned to the manor. There were no changes in the manor. It was as if nothing had happened. After all, the battle had been in an alternate dimension, so it didn't affect the real world. Cui Xin and Xing'an were still worried that Chen Zhao or the other Dragon Slayers had set up some device here. Therefore, they were even more careful. They observed outside the manor for half a day until the sun set. After confirming that there was no one in the manor, Xing'an and Cui Xin entered. Xing'an quickly entered the study and operated the mechanism on the wall. Only then did he open a secret passage in the wall. Just remove the wall. Why do you have to be so troublesome? Cui Xin said impatiently. The mechanisms here are all connected. So what? Could it be that your traps here can harm me? Or you? No. Then why are you wasting time? The mechanisms here can't hurt us, but they can destroy the treasures here. Chui Xin glanced at Xing'an, dissatisfied. But Xing'an didn't care at all. There was only his treasure in his heart. His passion and greed for treasures surpassed everything else. Wait for me here. Don't follow me for the rest of the way, Xing'an said in the narrow secret passage. Scrooge, are you afraid that I'll steal your treasures? I'm only interested in the caltrip all, Chui Xin said unhappily. But Xing'an was very firm. If Chui Xin questioned whether she wanted to follow him, Xing'an might fight her. If they attracted the attention of that human, then both of them would be dead. Chui Xin didn't want to force Xing'an too much. Xing'an walked forward alone until he disappeared into the darkness. Xing'an's treasures were hidden very well. He'd also set up a special barrier around them. If anyone tried to rob him of his treasures, the treasures would be directly sent into a different dimension. Xing'an came to the treasure room. It was about 100 square meters, but there were large amounts of gold, silver, gems, and all kinds of art inside. Xing'an let out a long sigh. His eyes became misty. Every time he saw his 400 years of accumulation, Xing'an would sink into it. It had almost become his weakness. It was a desire that was crazier and greedier than others. When he faced the treasures, he had no way to resist. Chapter 1977. His head partially turned into a dragon, then he opened his mouth and began to suck. All the treasures were sucked into his mouth. His magic was to shrink, and not only himself, but other objects could also be shrunk. In fact, shrinking objects was much easier than shrinking oneself. Xing'an quickly swept away all the treasures and collections here. All the treasures were hidden in one of his dragon teeth. Only then did Xing'an walk out of the treasure room with satisfaction. Chui Xin was already impatient. When Xing'an came out, Chui Xin didn't give him a good look. We can go now, Xing'an said with satisfaction. When will you give it to me? Chui Xin didn't want to act with Xing'an. He was too unsafe, and with his greedy personality, he would expose them sooner or later. So Chui Xin couldn't wait to escape from Xing'an's side. He was a time bomb, and they didn't even know when he would blow them to pieces. I want you to take me to Treasure Island, Xing'an said. Impossible. I will only tell you the location of Treasure Island, then you give me the caltrip cone, and we won't owe each other anything. How do I know if the location you said is true or false? I don't believe you. Just as Chui Xin didn't trust and hate Xing'an, Xing'an didn't trust Chui Xin either. I don't have to lie to you. Maybe you don't even know the location of Treasure Island, and you're lying to me. Xing'an's suspicions weren't superfluous. With Chui Xin's nature, she was likely to make up the location of Treasure Island for him. This was all possible. Chui Xin was annoyed. Anyway, I won't go to Treasure Island again. Why? Anyway, can't you just take me to Treasure Island and then come out? There is a big snake on Treasure Island, and my world compass was taken from it. If I return to Treasure Island, it will never let me leave so easily. Can't you beat that big snake? If I say that big snake is Jormungandr, would you believe it? Chui Xin's expression was extremely solemn. You must be joking, that's just a legend. Xing'an's expression also changed slightly. To humans, we are also legends. Chui Xin looked at Satan and said, But I really saw it. The head of that giant snake came out of the dark clouds. Its head was even bigger than my body. If it wasn't Jormungandr, I can't think of anyone else with such a huge body. In Norse mythology, Jormungandr, a monster that perished together with Thor, the god of thunder. One of the three gods of destruction born to the evil god Loki, and the female giant Angrboda. The evil god Loki and the female giant Angrboda had 3 children together. The eldest was the demon wolf Fenrir, the youngest was the goddess of death, Hel, and the second was Jormungandr. Jormungandr and Thor could be said to be fated enemies. They had fought many times in their lives, and in the end, both of them perished together. Jormungandr's head and tail could circle the world, so it was also called the world snake, and it also symbolized eternity. Also, I saw an upside-down palace in the sky. I suspect that the palace is the Odin race's palace, Asgard. I still don't believe it. It's just a legend. Even the dragons couldn't confirm if the Odin race really existed or if it was just a legend. I don't care if you believe it or not. Anyway, I won't go back to Treasure Island and face that terrifying snake. You have the world compass. You can escape at any time. I stole the world compass from Jormungandr. Do you think it'll work on him? Chui Xin sneered. Chui Xin tried to explain, but Sainton was still firm. Both sides fell into a stalemate. Neither was willing to take a step back. To Chui Xin, Treasure Island was also a nightmare. It was the same as asking her to walk around Chen Zhao's house. Would Chen Zhao talk to her about life and ideals? He would probably only treat her as a trophy. Hang her head in front of his house. If that's the case, let's go our separate ways, Sainton said. Chui Xin was furious. She criticized Sainton. Are you breaking up with me? Breaking up? Not really. I just want to protect my interests. You're full of lies. I definitely won't believe a liar. Chui Xin took a deep breath and calmed herself down. Do you know where I got the information about Treasure Island? Come on. Make up a new lie. I got the information from my father, Chui Xin said. It's a nightmare that has tortured him his entire life. Sainton sneered at Chui Xin. A patricide actually has the face to mention your father? I'm helping him escape, Chui Xin said coldly. Don't make patricide sound so noble. Forget it. I don't want to continue this topic. Chui Xin didn't want to talk about it either. Patricide wasn't an easy crime for her. After all, she'd received the title of the most evil dragon because of it. Even among the dragons, patricide was a huge crime. There's indeed no need for us to continue talking. You'll regret it. Chui Xin's cold eyes stared at Sainton. Since I've already been charged with patricide, I don't mind being charged with killing my brother. You want to fight me? Are you sure you want to fight me here? Sainton sneered at Chui Xin. He knew how afraid Chui Xin was of death and Chen Zhao. If they fought here, they would be too close to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao would definitely notice the shockwaves from their battle. Chui Xin obviously wouldn't fight here. She just turned around and left silently. She was good at being cunning and sinister. These were all things she had learned from human beings. To achieve her goals, she could do even more outrageous things. Sainton just wanted to leave with his treasures and collections. The siblings parted ways just like that. They didn't get along, but they had a common thought. Even if they had to fight to the death, they couldn't do it in L.A. The consequences of making a move here were very serious. Sainton had to take human transportation. Chui Xin didn't need that. She used the world compass to leave. In the blink of an eye, Chui Xin had already left L.A. She appeared in an unfamiliar area. Chui Xin looked around, trying to figure out where she was. Strange. What city is this? Chui Xin muttered to herself. Miss, are you lost? Chapter 1978. Chui Xin turned to look beside her. It was a white-haired Asian old man with a goatee. The Asian old man was looking at him with a lecherous gaze. Chui Xin's expression darkened. She raised her hand to slap the old man. Of course, if this slap landed on her face, it wouldn't just be one slap. Jun Shan Dao's technique, borrowing the power of heaven and earth, freeze. Zhang Tianyi grinned. Little girl, did you want to kill me just now? Chui Xin's raised arm suddenly felt like it was filled with cement. She couldn't move at all. This made her realize that the old man in front of her wasn't as simple as he seemed. Chui Xin immediately turned to leave. But she soon realized that her feet also felt like they were filled with lead. After trying a few times, Chui Xin realized that she couldn't remove the freeze curse at all. She didn't expect to be so unlucky. She used a random teleportation and actually teleported to the side of an expert. Little girl, do you know that this is China? If you use magic casually here, you'll be spanked. Slap. You dare hit me? Shui Xin glared at Zhang Tianyi angrily. I'm hitting you. So what if you're a dragon? Zhang Tianyi hit her again. Looking at his face, he seemed to be enjoying it. You know I'm a dragon? With my fiery eyes, no matter what kind of monster you are, I can see you. Zhang Tianyi's eyes stared at Shui Xin's chest. Let go of me, or I'll show my true form. Shui Xin didn't expect to be so unlucky. She'd long heard that China was the most active place in the supernatural world. In the past, she thought it was nothing special. Now, she truly believed that she could meet such a hidden expert on the streets. If she knew that the person in front of her was the world's #1 in the supernatural world, how would she feel? True form? Why don't you show me? Zhang Tianyi sneered at Shui Xin. If you want to be steamed, just show your true form. Ask your Dragon King if he dares to show his true form in China. How dare a little loach like you act so presumptuously in front of me? Although they were in the downtown area, Zhang Tianyi was confident that he could kill Shui Xin before she went berserk. Especially when Shui Xin was still under his spell. You dare kill me? My clan will definitely not let you off. Shui Xin threatened. Zhang Tianyi jumped up and slapped the back of Shui Xin's head. Aren't you going to let me go? Come on, won't you let me go? Come on. Zhang Tianyi was completely unconvinced by Shui Xin's threats. I'm over 100 years old, what haven't I seen? That's enough. I'm a member of the dragon race after all. Are you a space dragon? No, after the death of the last space dragon, there hasn't been a space dragon in the dragon clan for more than 1,000 years. If you are a space dragon, then the dragon clan would have already made a big fuss about it. But how can you suddenly appear here? Could it be some kind of magical treasure? Zhang Tianyi looked at Shui Xin up and down. Spatial magic? Or some kind of magic treasure or divine artifact? Shui Xin's heart tightened. Zhang Tianyi immediately smiled. It seems to be a spatial treasure. Zhang Tianyi snapped his fingers, and Shui Xin immediately felt the spell on her body being released. Come back to the mountain with me. Shui Xin was still standing in the same place, staring at Zhang Tianyi warily. Zhang Tianyi turned his head and looked at Shui Xin, who was standing still. You want to snatch my divine artifact? Zhang Tianyi laughed. I'm not interested in spatial divine artifacts. Why? Shui Xin didn't believe that there would be someone who wouldn't be tempted in the face of a divine artifact. Although I haven't used a spatial type divine artifact before, I have some understanding of it. The better the effect of a spatial divine artifact, the greater the side effects. This is the existence of karma. A spatial divine artifact can't be used to escape, because you can escape from your enemies, but you can't escape karma. You must have used a spatial divine artifact to escape recently, which is why you were teleported to me. What kind of logic is that? There are roughly 3 types of spatial divine artifacts. The first type is the small jump type, which is suitable for combat to improve one's mobility. The advantage is that it can cast spells quickly, but the disadvantage is that it consumes a lot of magic power. The second type is directional teleportation, which has no side effects. However, the disadvantage of this type of spatial divine artifact is that it takes a long time to prepare, and the one-time consumption of magic power can almost drain you dry. This type of spatial divine artifact is basically used as a means of transportation, and is almost useless in battle. The third type is the spatial divine artifact that you are using now, which teleports randomly. The operating mechanism of your spatial divine artifact is very complicated. It doesn't consume magic power, but it will involve you in karma. There is a high chance that you will be teleported to someone who will have karma with you, perhaps your family or friends, or perhaps your enemies. How do you know that my spatial divine artifact teleports randomly? When you appeared on the street, you obviously didn't know where you were and had been standing on the street observing. Zhang Tianyi said. And with your level, you can't teleport without consumption, so it can only be the third type of random teleportation. And it can be said that you appeared in front of me, which can be said to be inevitable. I've used it a few times, and nothing like this has happened before. Why is that? When you draw a line on a piece of white paper with your eyes covered, nothing will happen during the process. Then, when you draw the second line may pass through the mark left behind by the first line. When you draw the third line, the chances of touching the previous mark will increase, and the chances of the fourth line will be even greater. Over and over again, the chances of encountering it will increase. It's the same with the divine artifact in your hand. Nothing happened the first few times, which can only mean that your luck is good. But this time, you just happened to be teleported in front of me, which means that your luck is starting to change. You know so much about spatial divine artifacts. Is it because there are many spatial divine artifacts in this world? It's not a lot, but it's not a small number either. Our sect also has them, but very few people use them. The 3 types of spatial divine artifacts I mentioned all have their own limitations. Chui Xian's eyes sparkled as she looked at Zhang Tianyi. She was considering using the world compass again after its cooldown was over. I know what you're thinking. You want to try again, right? Could it be that you think I should just surrender? Zhang Tianyi smiled and stared at Chui Xian. If you want to teleport to the side of the person you fear the most the next time you teleport, you can give it a try. Do you know who I fear the most? Chapter 1979. Chui Xian's heart skipped a beat. She felt like she was suffering from a human phobia. This kind of mental illness really existed in the dragon race. They feared weak humans. The Chen Zhao she'd met before had already made her feel powerless. Now, this old human made her scalp go numb. Zhang Tianyi calculated with his fingers. The person I fear the most should also be from China, but he has the ability to kill dragons and tigers. The next time you meet him, it'll be your death. Zhang Tianyi's words made Chui Xian even more afraid. You're lying to me, right? Zhang Tianyi ignored Chui Xian's doubt and kept his fake expression. Also, I've calculated that you'll die in his hands in less than half a year. What should I do? What should I do? Chui Xian finally believed him. She knew that in China's supernatural world, prophecy spells had always been very powerful. Almost every spiritualist knew how to do some divination. Since Zhang Tianyi was so powerful, his prophecy spells must be very powerful too. Come to my mountain and live for 3 years. I guarantee that you'll be rid of all disasters and bad luck. You'll be happy and everything will go smoothly. Really? You don't have to believe me, but after you go up the mountain, I won't kill you or lock you up. You can come and go if you want, but don't go back up after you go down. Chui Xian's eyes sparkled. 3 years was just a blink of an eye for dragons. However, 3 years might be the best time to find and assemble that divine artifact. Can it be shorter? Do you think this is a market where you can bargain? Chui Xian bit her lip and finally said, I'll go up with you, but if I find something wrong, I'll go down immediately. Up to you. With Zephyra, Chen Zhao's body and mind were different. Zephyra was more diligent, patient, and capable than Portia. She never complained about the dirty and tiring work at home. She always finished it silently. With Chen Zhao's wicked mouth, he obviously wouldn't miss this opportunity. He'd belittle Portia to nothing. Chen Zhao was very free these 2 days. He spent most of his time cultivating and training. He didn't go out either. Today, Chen Zhao was diving in the sea. Zephyra and Portia were cleaning the house. At that moment, a stranger entered the Bright Moon Villa. Both Zephyra and Portia were confused when they saw the stranger. Because the butler system didn't give him any notifications. Those who did not receive any notifications from the butler system meant that they had been approved and could enter the Bright Moon Villa directly. Portia, do you know this person? I don't know him. I've never seen him here. Oh, then let's inform the boss. He should be here for the boss. Zephyra looked at the stranger who had already walked through the door. Zephyra, on the other hand, went to the front alley to greet them. But when Zephyra saw this person, she felt that there was something different about him. This was clearly the first time they had met, but she felt that this person was exuding a kind of affinity. This stranger was obviously a fatty, and he wasn't cute, nor was he handsome. However, he felt that this person should be a good person. Could it be that she had fallen in love with this person? No. This is the influence of magic. Zephyr woke up instantly. Are you using magic on me? Huh! Lila Gavich turned to look at Zevla. Are you a psychic too? Who are you? I'm here for Mr. Chin, Lila Gavich said. Also, I didn't use any magic on you. What you felt was my natural affinity. Zephyr looked at Lila Gavich in confusion. She had never interacted with elves before. She didn't even know about their existence. She had to admit that in her past life as a dragon slayer, her knowledge had always been very narrow. She knew of the existence of the dragon clan, but she did not know of the existence of the elf clan. Of course, with Lila Gavich's burly appearance, it was difficult for normal people to associate him with elves. Is Mr. Chin home? He is, but he's swimming in the sea. My other colleague has already informed Mr. Chin. Also, my colleague is a normal person. Okay, I understand. Lila Gavich nodded. Are you Mr. Chen's subordinate? More accurately, his personal assistant, Zephyr said. Zephyr was curious about Lila Gavich's identity. However, since Lila Gavich was Qin Zhao's guest, as his subordinate, she wouldn't rashly ask about his identity. When Lila Gavich entered the living room, Qin Zhao was already back. Lila, why are you here? Mr. Qin, I want to ask for your help. What help? Qin Zhao looked at Lila Gavich. The two of them were allies purely based on benefits. However, Qin Zhao was quite grateful to Lila. After all, Qin Zhao had learned the power of Jin from Lila. He had helped Qin Zhao a lot. So, if it wasn't too troublesome, Qin Zhao was willing to help. Portia, let's go out, Zephyr said. Zephyr was too good at reading people's expressions. She knew that Lila Gavich was hesitating because of her and Portia's presence. After Zephyr and Portia left, Lila Gavich finally spoke. I'm going to become an elven emissary, Lila Gage said. I remember that you just became a great elf not long ago, right? You're going to level up again so soon? It's different. Great elf is a level of power among the elves, while elf envoy is a special status. As long as certain conditions are met, any elf can become an elf envoy. Oh, like elf king and elf elder. It's a status and not a symbol of power, right? That's true, but there's a difference. The elven king needs the blood of the elven royal family in order to become the elven king. The royal family's bloodline has already disappeared from our race for 1,000 years. Not anyone can become the elven king, but the elven envoys don't have the bloodline restriction. Okay, I don't understand. How can I help you? Help you suppress the nature elves? No, to become an elf envoy, I won't be facing those nature elves. Instead, I'll be facing a test from all living things. In your Chinese language, it's God's test. I have to go through it. Qin Zhao's eyes widened. Are you sure you're not joking with me? Do I look like I'm joking with you? Like being struck by lightning? No, the elf envoy's test isn't limited to lightning. Anyway, it's very troublesome. Anything is possible. If you're here these 2 days, I can help, but I definitely won't have time next week. Chapter 1980. It won't be that fast. There should be around a month. You can't confirm the exact time? To become an elf envoy, you first have to pay respects to the ancestors and receive their recognition. Then you have to receive the blessings of fairies and at least 90% of your tribe's recognition. The ancestors represent the dead, the fairies represent nature, and the tribe represents the living. Only with these three's recognition will you have the right to become an elf envoy. Then, you have to sacrifice dragon blood to the world tree and make your achievements known to millions of people. Speaking of this, Lila Gavich pulled up his sleeve. A dark red brand appeared on it. This brand will become fainter every day. When it finally disappears, it will be the day I face the test of all things in the world. It's estimated to be around 30 days. I can understand the first 3, but do you have dragon blood? Amanda Didier is a dragon, so of course his blood is dragon blood. What about the World Tree? Does the World Tree really exist in this world? In the legends of the elves are the fruits of the World Tree. After falling to the ground, they turned into elves, so we are the children of the World Tree. In the hearts of every elf, the World Tree really exists. You said that the World Tree exists, but where is it? I don't know. Every elf is looking for the World Tree. They've been looking since ancient times. What about your achievements? Have you done anything great? I got someone to use my name as the main character and wrote a legendary adventure biography. Through distribution, I've sent out tens of millions of copies. Currently, this book has been at the top of the bestseller list for 3 weeks. Hearing Lila Gavik's words, Qin Zhao almost vomited blood. You can do that? Isn't your ceremony a bit too careless? This ceremony is an ancient ceremony. At that time, only real legendary heroes were qualified to compile their experiences and great deeds into a book and spread it for people to revere and worship. However, in this era, as long as you have money, these problems are no longer a problem. The restrictions of the past have also lost their meaning. Qin Zhao grinned. Is it really okay to blaspheme your ancestors' ceremony like this? Do you think the ancestors of our elves were very strict? Lila Gavik rolled his eyes. Cutting off the head of a tyrant, killing an evil dragon, defeating an army, destroying a country, saving a people, and challenging a demon king. You have to complete at least 3 of these to be considered great achievements. Do you think any elf envoy in the past has completed 3 of these? Qin Zhao was also dumbfounded. The ancestors of the elves were really ambitious. Any one of these achievements was almost impossible to complete. He actually needed 3 of them to be considered great achievements. Even for Qin Zhao, the only thing he was confident in was killing an evil dragon. The other missions were almost impossible. Actually, in the past, those elven envoys had to fabricate their great achievements to gain the recognition of the World Tree, but in this era, everything has become more convenient. Indeed, according to Lila Gevich, in the past, when communication was not developed, it took years or even decades for a person's biography to circulate. According to Lila Gavik, it would take years or even decades for a person's biography to spread in the past. As long as they were willing to spend money, the entire world would know their name in half a month. Anyway, Qin Zhao just felt that this ceremony was too perfunctory. What's the point of being an elf envoy? It's just a title, Lila Gavik said. Qin Zhao pursed his lips. He clearly didn't believe Lila Gavik. The complicated ceremony that he'd gone through so much trouble definitely wasn't just for a title. But since he didn't say anything, Qin Zhao didn't ask. Okay, I'll take it, Qin Zhao said. Let me know when you feel like you're about to go through the tribulation. Lila Gavik nodded. Oh, the last Pacific storm of the year will come 4 days after Christmas. What do you mean? Qin Zhao looked at Lila Gavik in confusion. Mr. Chen, you've been asking about Treasure Island, right? Yes. Qin Zhao knew that he'd asked Lila Gavik before. At the same time, he'd asked him to help him gather all information about Treasure Island. I got a diary left behind by an adventurer from hundreds of years ago. He wrote a poem in the diary. I'm waiting for the storm. I'm a petrel chasing the storm. I'll go wherever the wind goes. That place will be the dreamland of all explorers and pirates. I'll enjoy endless glory and wealth, Lila Gavik said. After this adventurer left this diary, he went to look for the legendary Treasure Island. Storm petrel? Skull Hanks once said that there was a witch in his team. When the storm came, the witch turned into a petrel and guided them to follow the storm. They found the 7 mysterious islands, and from there, they found their final destination, Treasure Island. Qin Zhao wasn't thinking about the treasures on Treasure Island. It was still unknown whether there were treasures or how many there were. What Qin Zhao really cared about was another question. Who had sent Skull Hanks to Qin Zhao? The letter had come from the explorer Fanity. However, in Qin Zhao's impression, Fanity shouldn't have much to do with supernatural events. Therefore, Qin Zhao really suspected that Fanity had sent him Skull Hanks. Or rather, someone had sent him a skull under Fanity's name. Qin Zhao couldn't contact Fanity either. He was very doubtful that she was still alive. The first time, Fanity had sent him a metal object. She was referring to the golden curse of Kamasa Island. The second time, she'd sent him Skull Hanks. She'd never sent him anything good. Skull Hanks seemed to have been sent to guide Qin Zhao to Treasure Island. This meant that someone had already landed on Treasure Island and wanted to guide Qin Zhao to it. What was their goal? To share the treasures on Treasure Island with him? Qin Zhao wasn't that naive. There were only two reasons for wanting him to land on Treasure Island. One was to harm him. The other was that they needed help or help. Apart from these two possibilities, Qin Zhao couldn't think of a third one. Chapter 1981. There's still more than a month before the storm. How do you know? It's the 4th day after Christmas, which is December 29th. Can the weather forecasts predict the weather in a month and a half? Mr. Qin, you're too amateurish. You can't predict the weather, but you can use prophecy. You're a spiritualist. Is that hard to understand? Plus, predicting the weather is just a small matter for a prophecy spiritualist. Qin Zhao felt very awkward. It was like a university professor being accused of being an amateur by a primary school student. However, Lila Gavich's words made Qin Zhao understand. The last chance to find the island would be at the end of the year. The wind and waves would definitely be huge. Should he bring his family? He'd also promised Fei Lai and the kids that he'd bring them on the treasure hunt. The only thing he knew now was how to find the island. However, finding the island seemed to require a special spell that could allow him to transform into a petrel. Of course, Qin Zhao wasn't sure if this was necessary. Just then, there was a knock on the door. "Boss, it's Miss Demi," Portia said. "Mr. Qin, I'm leaving now." "Okay." Qin Zhao took the phone from Portia. "Hello, it's Qin Zhao. Mr. Qin, please come to the military base and meet with your teammates." "Is that necessary?" "They're all elites," Demi said. "Must I go?" "I hope you can come. Don't tell me you've prepared a trap with guns and cannons for me? I'm not that bored." Demi's tone turned cold. "Actually, why don't you just send some people and leave the rest to me? Some things can't be explained over the phone," Demi said vaguely. "I'll talk to you in detail when you arrive." "Okay, I'll go now." Qin Zhao left Portia and Zephyr at home while he drove to the military base that Demi had given him. He couldn't find it with GPS, so Demi only gave him a map. For someone like Qin Zhao who had no sense of direction, finding the military base was rather difficult. It was mainly because he couldn't understand the map. Qin Zhao was driving in L.A. now. Most of the time, he had to use GPS. He needed directions for every turn. After spending a lot of effort, they finally found the military base. The military base was located in the mountains and was surrounded by rocky valleys. It was very difficult to find. Moreover, he couldn't find this place on the satellite map, so he couldn't use satellite navigation. Demi was the supreme commander of this military base. When Qin Zhao's car reached the entrance of the military base, he was stopped by the sentries. The sentry pointed at the cordon and warning sign at the door and said, "No entry. I'm looking for someone, Miss Demi." The sentry glanced at Qin Zhao. "Wait." As he spoke, the sentry returned to the sentry post and picked up the phone to dial the internal line. After confirming that Qin Zhao was indeed invited by Demi, she pulled up the railing. Qin Zhao's sports car attracted a lot of attention. Qin Zhao parked the car at the entrance of the headquarters. A few soldiers surrounded him. "Hey, lend me your car." Qin Zhao turned around and gave him the middle finger. "No." The soldiers cursed, but they couldn't do anything to Qin Zhao. After all, they were soldiers, not bandits. While Qin Zhao entered the building, they could only jump into the car to have fun. Qin Zhao knew what was going on behind him, but as long as they didn't destroy his car, he didn't ask. After finding Demi's office, Qin Zhao pushed the door open. Demi was handling some documents. She was about to explode because Chen Zhao didn't knock. Seeing that it was Chen Zhao, she suppressed her anger. Mr. Chen, you're here. Have a seat. Would you like something to drink? No, Chen Zhao said. Let's get straight to the point. Demi was very careful. She glanced outside and then locked the door from the inside. After returning to her seat, Demi finally said, First, there's the issue of money. A qualified military operation can't be carried out by just one person. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how high your reward is, it doesn't mean anything. Only appropriate losses and sacrifices can reflect your value, the difficulty of this military operation, and the sense of accomplishment after the final completion. Do you understand what I mean? You don't look like a soldier. You look more like a politician. You speak of the soldiers' deaths so naturally. In the past, just like I thought, I naively believed that only the smallest number of casualties and losses could be considered a successful military operation. However, the facts proved me wrong. The soldiers who carried out the military operation did not receive any merit, and I did not receive any commendations either. This was because the higher-ups believed that our operations were all easy missions. Demi continued, and this operation, including your pay, will cost more than $30 million. What standard do you think the higher-ups will use to measure the value of this operation? Is it the enemy's strength? No, they'll judge based on the number of casualties. Chen Zhao didn't agree with Demi's thinking, but he wouldn't argue. They weren't his subordinates anyway. Why should he care about their lives? But according to your military compensation, the total compensation for a soldier's death will add up to a few $100,000, right? Plus, the military's investment in a soldier is at least a few $100,000. So, a soldier's death is about $1 million. The compensation for a soldier's death was divided into several steps. One part was covered by the insurance company, and the other was covered by the military. There were one-time compensation and continuous compensation for the spouse and children until the children grew up or the spouse remarried. Yes, the economic loss of a soldier is about $1.2 million, and the loss of an elite special forces soldier is $2 million. So, I've arranged a team of around 15 people for you. How many do you need to die? Chen Zhao asked. Around 10 people, plus the consumption of some weapons and ammunition. The economic loss should be around $30 million. I won't kill them, Chen Zhao said. I don't need you to kill them. I can't guarantee that many of them will die. To be honest, Chen Zhao couldn't understand the higher-ups' thinking. An operation actually had to use the number of soldiers sacrificed as the standard of difficulty. Was this really the most advanced army in the world? It was practically black culture. I have another request, Demi said. What? Chapter 1982. The leader must die. You have your bottom line and I have mine. Don't use your bottom line to challenge mine. All Chen Zhao could do was not come into contact with the soldiers, just like when they were on the Lake Pontchartrain Bridge. Back then, Chen Zhao had watched the monsters and soldiers fight as a bystander. But Chen Zhao wouldn't kill them. After all, they were teammates in name. Under any circumstances, attacking teammates was considered betrayal. If Chen Zhao did not come into contact with them, he would not know their names, personalities, and preferences. He would not develop feelings for them. Humans were strange creatures. A creature with a name, and not had a name were two different concepts. For example, if a person gave their pet pig a name, the owner would not be able to tolerate the fate of the pig being eaten. In that case, the owner would not be able to tolerate the fate of the pet pig being eaten. Then, it would be personality and preferences. As the owner understood and had a deeper impression, a real image would be formed. After that, it would be personality and hobbies. With further understanding and a deeper impression, an image of flesh and blood would be established. Then, it would be personality and preferences. As one got to know and have a deeper impression, a real image would be formed. Feelings for other people or things would also develop. If Chen Zhao had feelings for them, even just a little, he wouldn't be able to watch them die. If Qin Zhao developed feelings for them, even a little, it would be difficult for him to watch them die. If the former was a problem of feelings, the latter was a problem of moral bottom line. Betrayal was not allowed or tolerated. This had always been the case. Fine, pretend I didn't say anything, as long as you don't protect him. Just then, the office door was pushed open. It was very forceful. One had to know that Demi had locked the door from the inside. It was clear that the person outside was no longer just pushing. A human-shaped Tyrannosaurus stood outside. It was a man who was thicker and taller than Gaia. "Hey, Demi, I heard that you have a visitor. I'm here to see who it is." The human-shaped Tyrannosaurus turned around and saw Qin Zhao sitting on the chair. He walked over and patted his shoulder. Qin Zhao was not sure if the Tyrannosaurus did it on purpose or not, but it was very forceful. "Are you Demi's boyfriend?" Cough, cough. "No." Qin Zhao coughed a few times. He really looked like he was too weak to stand up to the wind. "Ham, he's your teammate." Demi sat on the chair calmly, her expression cold. "Teammates? I don't like strangers joining my team. It'll drag my team down," Ham said. "Rather than calling him a teammate, it would be better to call him a companion. He won't give you any trouble, but of course, he won't listen to any of your orders either. Since he doesn't listen to my orders, why should I let him travel with me?" Ham said unhappily. "Because this is my order, do you understand?" Ham. Demi's attitude was even more unyielding. "No, I don't understand." Ham slammed his palms on Demi's desk, causing it to collapse. Demi pointed the gun at Ham's head. "Answer me. Do you understand?" Ham stared straight at Demi as if he was going to force her to do something. However, Demi was even more determined than him. Her finger was already on the trigger. Ham heaved a sigh of relief. "Fine. You're the commanding officer. Whatever you say." With that, Ham turned around. Glancing at Qin Zhao beside him, he turned to leave. "You want him dead?" Qin Zhao asked. Demi glanced at Ham's departing back. "Do you understand now why I want him dead? Does he have a grudge against you? He was originally the commander here, but after I came, I snatched away the authority that should have belonged to him. Even he became my subordinate." Demi glanced outside. "There are still people loyal to him in the base." "So troublesome," Qin Zhao said in annoyance. "Even in the military, there are these kinds of power struggles. Gather here on Monday morning and we'll leave together." "Are we taking a military plane?" "No, we're taking civil aviation," Demi said. "Fine. You all came to Mexico as civilians, Mexicali," the young man said. "Got it." When Qin Zhao went downstairs, he saw Ham standing beside his sports car. "Move, child." Ham put a hand on Qin Zhao's shoulder. "I hope you can give up on this mission." Qin Zhao turned his head silently and looked at Ham. "Child? He called me child? Do I look that young?" Ham narrowed his eyes at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao smiled at Ham. "You should move." Ham thought for a moment. In the end, he moved back and let Qin Zhao get in. Ham was displeased with Qin Zhao, but this was clearly not the place to fight. But there was still time. As long as he went to Mexico, he had 10,000 ways to prevent Qin Zhao from coming back. Qin Zhao drove away, but he could feel Ham's gaze. It seemed that the tiger would hurt the man if he meant no harm. To Qin Zhao, nothing had changed in the past 2 days. Apart from packing a box of clothes and daily necessities, he didn't prepare anything else. With Zephyra and Portia at home, there was nothing for Qin Zhao to worry about. On Monday morning, Qin Zhao arrived at the airport. Ham and his team were already waiting in the departure lounge. But they weren't waiting for Qin Zhao. They weren't planning on waiting for Qin Zhao at all. When Qin Zhao went to get his ticket, he realized that his ticket had already been taken. Usually, he needed a personal ID to get a ticket, but Qin Zhao had it with him. His ticket was still taken. Qin Zhao had to use a special method to get into the departure lounge. Qin Zhao found Ham. "Where's my ticket?" Chen Zhao stood before Ham. He didn't like being harassed and troubled the entire trip. Ham and his teammates all looked at Chen Zhao with mocking eyes. Ticket? Maybe you should ask Miss Demi. I don't know where your ticket is. Okay, looks like you don't want a peaceful trip. Let's start from boarding. Chen Zhao looked at Ham. Chen Zhao sat across from Ham. Ham kept looking at Chen Zhao with a smile. Chen Zhao crossed his feet and also sat there calmly. It was finally boarding time. Suddenly, one of the team members realized that his passport was gone. Look again. Did you put it in a corner? Captain, my passport is gone too. Damn it, mine is gone too. At this time, Ham touched his pocket. He realized that his passport was gone too. Just then, Chen Zhao stood up. Yo! It's time to board. I should board now. Chen Zhao took out a ticket and a few passports from his pocket. How did our passports end up in his hands? Chapter 1983. Give us back our passports! Ham roared. Chen Zhao put his hand on Ham's shoulder. Calm down! Chen Zhao stuffed the passport back into Ham's shirt pocket. Of course I'll give it back to you. It was just a small joke. Chen Zhao patted Ham's chest again. But I hope that in the next few days there will be fewer jokes like this. Do you understand? This was originally a small trick to humiliate and tease Chen Zhao. But now, they were being humiliated by Chen Zhao. This was clearly not the place to do it, unless they wanted to be stopped or blacklisted by civil aviation. After boarding the plane, Chen Zhao glanced at his ticket. Hello, Mississippi, how can I help you? The flight attendant approached Chen Zhao with a smile. I'm not feeling well. I need to upgrade. Chen Zhao took out a black card, but he definitely couldn't swipe it on the plane, so he added $2,000 in cash. It was normal to operate in the plane's upgrade cabin, even without a black card. As long as there were empty seats and cash, and the purser handled it, one could upgrade. Of course, there was another possibility. It was because his body needed a better environment. At this time, the flight attendants would upgrade the passenger's cabin for free for the sake of the passenger's health and safety. Chen Zhao took out the black card mainly to increase the weight. Sometimes, there weren't enough empty seats and several people requested at the same time. That was when the black card would be effective. In fact, there would usually be passengers requesting upgrade on long-distance flights. This was because the cost of requesting to upgrade after takeoff was different from purchasing a first-class ticket. Some people would only ask for an upgrade after taking off for the sake of convenience. There were also premium members of the airline. If there were empty seats in the premium cabin, they had the right to request upgrade for free. When the flight attendant saw Chen Zhao's black card, her smile became even sweeter. In a short time, Chen Zhao successfully switched to first class. Ham and the soldiers all looked at Chen Zhao in annoyance. Even though it was only an hour and a half, Chen Zhao didn't want to stay with them. Los Angeles was less than 600 kilometers from Mecca. Not counting takeoff and landing time, the flight time was less than an hour. The climate in Cali is similar to that of Los Angeles, where the temperature is a little higher by 2 or 3 degrees. They belong to the same climate region, and were the largest cities in Upper and Lower California. Of course, in terms of prosperity and economic size, the two were definitely not on the same level. However, as a tourist city, in order to attract a large number of American tourists, they did a good job in all aspects. When Chen Zhao left the airport, he could smell the dryness in the air. Baja California had a larger desert area, and the temperature here was above 25 degrees all year round. Ham and the others also walked out of the airport. They couldn't compare to Chen Zhao at all. It took them half an hour to get through customs. The black card in Chen Zhao's hand was like a pass. So slow. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. Are all American soldiers so inefficient? Everyone, including Ham, was enraged, and their eyes were almost spitting fire. Monkey, you'd better watch your mouth. Ham no longer hid his disdain and hostility towards Chen Zhao. Anyway, This is Takali. You should also watch your words, big black bear. Do you dare say that again? Ham was already standing before Qin Zhao. Standing before Qin Zhao, he was 1 meters tall. He was like a mountain that loomed over Qin Zhao's head. Mr. Black Bear. Without hesitation, Ham punched Qin Zhao's face. But his fist didn't even cause a ripple on Qin Zhao's face. Let me teach you how to punch! Bang! Qin Zhao punched Ham to the ground. Ham yelped as one of his teeth fell out. Qin Zhao stood before Ham and loosened the collar of his shirt. Qin Zhao looked at Ham coldly. Before you attack, you better know who your opponent is, idiot! The other soldiers all stared at Qin Zhao with hatred. As long as Ham gave the order, they would attack Qin Zhao without hesitation. Ham stood up again and spat out the blood in his mouth. He stared at Qin Zhao with hatred. Kid, you'll die here. Qin Zhao chuckled. You should focus your energy on this mission, otherwise, you'll definitely die earlier than me. It was an unpleasant encounter from the start. Obviously, this operation wouldn't have any good prospects to look forward to. But after punching Ham, Qin Zhao believed that Ham wouldn't ask for trouble again. Especially after Qin Zhao stayed in the most expensive suite in the hotel. After they stayed in affordable rooms, the dissatisfaction was about to explode. Qin Zhao clearly didn't plan on changing the soldiers' impression of him. He still did what he wanted. He had the best food and accommodation, and even showed off in front of the soldiers. In the evening, Qin Zhao went out again. At the entrance of the hotel, a woman walked over. She had bronze skin, wavy long hair, and a perky cleavage. She wore stilettos and looked to be in her early 30s. Hello, you must be Mr. Qin. I'm Ella Gonzalez, the local guide you contacted in the afternoon. Hello? Qin Zhao shook hands with Ella Gonzalez. Mr. Qin, I grew up in Mexicali. I know this place very well. I can even bring you to experience some special services. Ella's words were a bit vague. But I hope that my pay can be higher. Qin Zhao understood what Ella Gonzalez meant. But Qin Zhao still shook his head. Sorry, I don't need those services. I think that 100 a day isn't low. You can't ask me to pay more. Of course, if you think that my pay is too low, I can change to another guide. Okay. 100 a day, but I'll only start after 10 and finish before 7. Sure. Qin Zhao nodded. Do you want to start working now? Then do you want to start paying now? Let's go. Bring me to eat the most special local food. 20 minutes later, Ella Gonzalez brought Qin Zhao to a restaurant. Qin Zhao stood before the sign and spaced out for at least 3 minutes. Ms. Ella, are you sure you didn't bring me to the wrong place? Chapter 1984. Qin Zhao and Ella Gonzalez stood in front of a Chinese restaurant. Qin Zhao really wanted to tell her, Are you fucking kidding me? But Qin Zhao maintained his rationality. Ella, do you know where I'm from? I know. I'm from China. I want to eat the local delicacies of Macali, not Chinese food. If I want to eat, I can make it myself. But Ascali's most famous restaurant is Chinese. Ella Gonzalez shrugged at Qin Zhao. In fact, the most famous food in Cali is Chinese food. Not eating Chinese food in Mexicali was like going to China's capital and not going to the Great Wall. This Chinese restaurant is really good, Ella Gonzalez emphasized. Okay, I know it's good. Qin Zhao scratched his head. Okay, let's go in and try. The waiters in the restaurant were both Chinese and natives. Seeing Qin Zhao and Ella Gonzalez walk in, a Chinese waitress immediately came over. Sir, miss, hello? What would you like? Give me one of your signature dishes, Qin Zhao said in Chinese. The Chinese waitress looked at Qin Zhao and also asked in Chinese, Are you from China for vacation? Sort of, Qin Zhao replied. Qin Zhao could also tell that the waitress wasn't Chinese. She was Chinese herself. There were some differences between Chinese and Chinese. Foreigners might not be able to tell, but Chinese could definitely. The waitress could also tell that Qin Zhao was speaking Chinese, so she spoke to him in Chinese. Hello, I'm Johnny. Hello, Qin Zhao. I won't disturb you anymore. I'll go help you with the order. Johnny stopped there. A while later, Johnny brought a plate of white chicken to the table. Are you free? Let's sit down and talk. Qin Zhao hadn't talked to people in a long time. Zhang Tianyi didn't count. Qin Zhao had never talked to that old bastard seriously. He only felt like talking to a normal person like Zhang Yi. Sorry, I still have work. Also, I won't disturb you and this beautiful lady. Okay. Qin Zhao didn't want to force her. For a moment, Qin Zhao really wanted to slam a few $1,000s on the table and tell Zhang Yi, I'll buy you for 30 minutes. Mr. Qin, what do you think of the smell here? Ella looked at him expectantly. The taste here couldn't be said to be bad, but it was still different from the taste in China. After all, after Chinese cuisine was exported to other parts of the world, it would be localized to a certain extent. Even in Cali, there was no exception. Not bad, Qin Zhao replied. You should eat some too. To be honest, the taste here was much worse than Qin Zhao's own. If he wanted to eat Chinese food, he would rather eat at home. After leaving the restaurant, Zhang Yi chased after him to the entrance. Mr. Qin, this is the china knot from our restaurant. Oh, thanks. Qin Zhao took the china knot. Are you studying here? Yes. Zhang Yi nodded. I'm leaving. Bye, Qin Zhao said. Goodbye. Qin Zhao and Ella Gonzalez left. Ella Gonzalez was also planning to get off work. Mr. Qin, I'll come to your hotel at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Okay, be careful. When Qin Zhao returned to the hotel, he realized that the door to his suite had been opened. The lock was a fingerprint lock. Judging from the lock, it wasn't opened by force. Hotels nowadays all had alarm systems. If a room was forcefully opened, the alarm would be triggered. Qin Zhao entered the room and checked his luggage. His suitcase was also opened. His clothes and daily necessities were scattered everywhere. Almost everything was destroyed. His tablet was lost. Qin Zhao picked up the internal phone and called the hotel customer service. A while later, the customer service manager came. Seeing Qin Zhao's messy suitcase, his heart skipped a beat. Qin Zhao was a black card customer. When he checked into the hotel, he'd already been marked. Now that Qin Zhao's luggage had been robbed, it was a disaster for the hotel. I need to check the surveillance footage, Qin Zhao said calmly. From 5 in the afternoon until I return to the hotel. Of course, no problem. Mr. Qin, do you need to call the police? The manager asked carefully. Not now. The manager brought Qin Zhao to the surveillance room. He said to the guard on duty, Get the surveillance footage from the 20th floor immediately, starting from 5 in the afternoon. Seeing the manager's tone and expression, the guard on duty vaguely realized that something had happened. He hurriedly pulled up the footage, but after a while, he suddenly turned his head with a pale face and looked at Qin Zhao and the manager. Manager! The footage isn't recorded. What? It's not recorded? How do you work? Normally, banks or financial institutions kept their surveillance footage for at least 3 months. Hotels kept it for at least a week, but Qin Zhao couldn't find the footage from a few hours ago. Qin Zhao clearly couldn't accept this explanation. Why isn't it recorded? I don't know. I didn't do it before, the guard said frantically. The security guard on duty said in a panic. It should be working normally all the time. Why isn't there any recording? Strange, it clearly shows that it is continuously recording. Qin Zhao looked at the footage. After a few minutes, he said, These cameras are connected to an external line, so it's a continuous image. The guard on duty didn't have any skills. Apart from pressing a few buttons, he didn't know anything else, so it could be ruled out that he was the culprit. However, the guard was still panicking. How can this be? How can this be? Qin Zhao turned and walked out of the surveillance room. Such professional skills weren't something a thief could do. Qin Zhao had a rough idea of who did it. He'd found the stolen goods. These people probably thought that Qin Zhao couldn't find any evidence, which was why they were so unrestrained. Qin Zhao knocked on Ham's door. When Ham saw Qin Zhao, his lips curled into a smile. "Mr. Chen, did you just come back? Is Cali fun? Give me back my stuff and I'll pretend this never happened." A playful expression appeared on Ham's face. "Mr. Chen, what are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. Just answer me. Are you going to give it back or not?" Qin Zhao still looked at Ham calmly. "I don't know what you mean. If there's nothing else, please leave. I'm tired. Goodbye." Chapter 1985. You better sleep with your gun. After all, I don't have a good temper. Are you threatening me? Ham sneered at Qin Zhao. Yes, I'm threatening you. Qin Zhao smiled and turned to leave. Ham's expression gradually turned cold. After Qin Zhao left, he immediately knocked on his teammate's door. Ham had never been threatened like this before. Usually, he would point his gun at the person's head. However, he had to take Qin Zhao's threat seriously. Be careful tonight. That monkey might really take revenge on you tonight. Captain, don't worry. If he really dares to come, I'll kill him right away. Ham nodded and left the room. The moment he closed the door, he suddenly heard a noise in the room. Ham hurriedly opened the door, but there was no one in the room. Denzel? Where did you go? There was only a bedroom and a bathroom in the room. There was no other place to hide. Ham searched inside and out but was unable to find Denzel's figure. Just then, the curtains moved. Ham ran to the window and realized that it was open. However, this place was more than 10 floors above ground. The wall outside was completely smooth glass. Ham's expression changed and he hurriedly ran to inform the others. However, the room next door didn't open after knocking for a long time. Ham immediately picked up his phone and dialed his teammate's number. But no one picked up. Ham felt that something had happened to them too, so he smashed open the door. There was no one inside either. Like Denzel's room, the window was open. Ham smashed open another room and got the same result. Missing. His subordinates were all missing. Ham panicked too. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do at all. Call the police? Would the police be able to handle this? Suddenly, the lights in the corridor dimmed and went out without any warning. Ham felt a hand pinching his neck. Then, the hand suddenly increased its strength. Ham felt suffocated. In the blink of an eye, he fell into a coma. Vaguely, he felt like he was thrown onto a hard floor. Then, there was a tremor. Even in a coma, Ham's subconscious was still working. He was in the back of the car. When Ham woke up again, the sky was already brightening. Ham found that he and his companions were buried in the ground, with only their heads sticking out. His other companions were still unconscious. Denzel. Max, hurry up and wake up, damn it! Not long after, Denzel woke up. What happened? I can't move. Damn it, whose prank is this? Where is this place? The third person also woke up. After the sun rose completely, everyone woke up. At this time, they also knew where they were. This was a desert, and they were buried in the soil. It's that monkey's doing. I want to kill him. Damn bastard! Everyone was cursing loudly, but Qin Zhao wasn't here at all. When the sun began to rise, the temperature also began to rise. Everyone was exposed to the sun, and they began to feel thirsty. Morning, Mr. Chen. Ella Gonzalez entered Qin Zhao's room and saw that he was training. Morning. Qin Zhao wiped his sweat. What's our schedule today? Let's go to the Mercicali Zoo first, then the Mexican-American War Museum. In the afternoon, we can go to the Sicker Casino. I'm not going to the casino. I'm not interested in gambling. You can have some fun and relax, Ella Gonzalez said. No need. Cancel the trip to the casino. Ella felt that it was a pity. After all, she would get a cut of whatever Qin Zhao spent in the casino. Every tour guide in Mercicali had some connection to the casino. Unfortunately, Qin Zhao wasn't interested, so there was nothing she could do. Then let's go to the city park instead. Sure. Qin Zhao and Ella's first stop was the zoo. Mersicali's zoo wasn't a famous zoo, but there were many species. That's the crocodile pond. A tourist fell in before. And then? Then the rescuers found an arm. Qin Zhao leaned against the railing and looked at the crocodile pond. I think we should have chosen this place last night. Maybe it'll be more interesting. What are you talking about? No, nothing. Qin Zhao shook his head. Just then, a worker was holding a pole with a rope tied to it. There was also a piece of meat hanging from the rope. It was attracting the crocodiles to jump out of the water, causing the surrounding tourists to exclaim, Mr. Qin, do you want to enter the airtight cabin and have close contact with the crocodiles? Sure. Qin Zhao nodded. Seeing Ella Gonzalez's proud expression, Qin Zhao asked, Do you get a cut from this project too? I just earned some hard-earned money. Qin Zhao and Ella Gonzalez both entered the sealed cabin. The airtight cabin slowly sank into the water. By then, the surrounding crocodiles had already surrounded them. They even used their huge bodies to hit the cabin. Some even used their bloody mouths to bite into the cabin. Ella Gonzalez wanted to see Qin Zhao's dazed expression. But when she turned to look at him, she realized that his hands were still in his pockets. Aren't you scared? This airtight cabin is made of superfiberglass. 1 square meter can withstand 500 MPa of water pressure. Most of the floor-to-ceiling windows in my house are made of this glass. I know how tough it is. The crocodiles can't destroy it. Qin Zhao wasn't a material expert, but Felwood Cisco often mentioned this glass material to him, so he had a deep impression. Of course, this glass was also very expensive. 1 square meter of superfiberglass cost tens of thousands of dollars. Ella Gonzalez rolled her eyes. This project is meaningless with your reaction. Then how should I behave? Fear? You can be excited, Ella said. Ella Gonzalez said, I've accompanied customers to experience this project no less than 100 times. Their reactions have varied, but they've never been as calm as yours. The project only lasted 10 minutes. The airtight cabin was quickly pulled back to the water. Here, Qin Zhao saw all kinds of animals and entertainment. But he wasn't interested at all. He'd rather go home than interact with these animals. He had many animals at home too. They were much more interesting than the animals here. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.